Five, four, three, two, one. And for episode one of 2025, John is back. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good, man. It's only been a week since we've last seen each other, but we're not on a live this time.
No,
We
no.
thought we'd do this one on one. And look, we're going to continue with the everything is connected theme. And however, we're calling this one the disclosure edition. Okay. Because obviously everything's the drones are still in the air, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's still been no real good explanation as to what they are apart from the government knows, which, that fills me with so much hope and confidence. However, there's much deeper to this, right? And the rabbit hole hasn't stopped since the live the other night for
No.
anybody. However, you got in touch with me the other day and said, "Hey, I've got a few theories. Do you want to have another chat?" And then, us being us, it ramped up again. And I'm not sure we could count how many videos we've sent each other in the last 3 days, but it's a few.
There were a few. Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah. So, mate, it's you wanted to take this a certain direction, and I'm more than happy to let you do that. So, where do you want to start, man? What do you want to start with?
Well, I was really sort of. I've got a few things that I want to talk about, but I'm starting with the drones because I think that's the hot topic at the moment.
Well, they're still
Um,
in the air.
they're
Yeah.
still in the air. There's so much footage coming out from all over the world. Um, Specifically, I guess in the US where it seems to be um, a lot more sightings happening there. Um, but the content that's coming out is a sort of I guess a bit of a mixed bag as to
Mhm.
whether it's us, whether it's the US and they're
Testing equipment, or
testing their equipment or
yeah,
this new
or they're
technology that
looking
they're
for
using.
something, or it's
That's right.
the problem
Um,
is it hasn't gone too much. What it is and what's going on now
mm, mm.
hasn't really advanced since the last time we sat down, which is,
No,
you know,
but there are a few new little things that have popped up in my feed. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but um, and there is obviously a lot of discussion going on in the
yes.
podcast. So
Mm.
Ryan Graves is talking. Sorry, not Ryan Graves.
Sean Ryan.
Sean Ryan.
Mm.
Sorry about that. Joe Rogan was talking to Ryan Graves. That's where I got mixed up.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is a lot of discussion around it. And there has been, like Ryan Graves said, he's not sure exactly who it is, but there's theories. The newest one that I heard the other day was that it was either Iran or China, and they're
China. Yeah.
testing out this new technology that they've got.
Hmm.
And I think it was actually there might have been the two of those two countries have actually connected somehow, and there's an Iranian ship, but these are Chinese drones. So
Yes.
that was something that was thrown out there the other day. Um,
But the problem with that is that they want their war with Iran.
yeah.
They've wanted their war with Iran for a long
Mm,
time.
mm.
That's on the seven cities list. You know what I mean? America's going to conquer the
Yep.
seven countries. Iran is on that list.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah.
it's always
Yep.
Iran and China.
Yes.
However, I think
Exactly.
the question is these drones are still acting sometimes in a fashion that, we talked about it in the chat. So I didn't have time to look into it. However, what is the max speed and G rating of a military drone these days? Because these ones seem to accelerate quite quickly if we
Mm,
are to believe the videos that we are being shown, which
that's right.
is another problem as well. Of obviously we discussed
Yep.
in the live. However, um, who's cracked anti-gravitic technology, right? I think this is the question,
Mm.
and China and America would make sense.
Yes.
That would make
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. And look, there are discussions about this in documentaries that, apparently this has been happening since, 1950 something.
Yes.
And, there is a possibility that they did crack anti-gravitic technology back then and they've just shelved it for a little while and then it's popping back up again because they've, I guess, perfected the technology in a way.
Yeah,
So,
it's becoming it's being able to be mass produced
mm,
uh,
mm,
in
yep,
drone form or something like that.
yep.
Look, it's a fascinating question, anti-gravitic technology. I mean, it's something that's close to my heart. I spent a long time down that rabbit hole in 22, 23, and look, I mean, if you take Otis T. Carr, I after doing a deep dive on Otis Carr, is it's only shallow, but it's deep because I found his book and a few things. However, I've got no reason to believe he didn't make an XTC1 and
Mhm.
was using it to fly around using Tesla-based technology.
Yep.
I think, look, there's something I saw before we come on tonight. It's like we really need to have a discussion about a shadow government or
Mhm.
a breakaway civilization is the term that gets thrown around a lot by Elizondo and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yep.
And I found it fascinating the other night that not only you and Anthony, but the listeners as well, when I said, hey, they lost 200 and something trillion dollars,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Where did that go, right? You didn't, it's not under the helm, mate.
Hmm.
You know. And I will, James named the table the helm. So we're
Hmm.
at the helm in the sanctum. And as I said, all the boys thought that was awesome. And I'll
Mm.
keep shouting him out until I forget because yeah, it's definitely, and it's evolving. It's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, However, what does that mean? You know what I mean? What are we talking about here when we say shadow government, when we say
Mm.
civilization? I know you wanted to talk about mainstream movies and
Hmm.
the space and Star Trek and Gene
Mm.
Roddenberry. And, the curious thing about Gene Roddenberry is I'm pretty sure he was one of the dudes that went to Joshua Tree and took acid and they opened portals and all that sort of
Mm.
stuff. And I'm pretty sure that he said later in life he channeled Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was downloaded into him.
Yep.
Um, there's always been this whisper, you know. However, is it reaching critical mass now? Is that what we're dealing with?
Yeah, and that's where I think, like looking back at all the science fiction stuff that we've been sort of, shown over the years, it's gotten better and better. Obviously, the graphics with,
Mm.
the technology as advanced, and we've got more digital stuff going on, and now with AI, like I mean, it's so hard to tell the difference between what's what at the moment.
Yes.
But yeah, I do believe that there has been that sort of drip feed um, for disclosure over the past, I'm going to say 20 to 30 years.
Mm.
Um, I think it really ramped up in the 2000s. I think it started to really push, and especially since, in particular, the Marvel movies started coming out. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of things happen there. There's little subtle hints to things, to do with, and if you not to just to bring it back to the drones and, um, and whether it's disclosure or not, or pre-disclosure, or even if it's, we talked about this the other night, whether it's Project Bluebeam,
Yeah. Or a
um,
version of said
or
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the things that they can do with these drones, I mean, you've seen the drone shows where they
Oh, the
have
drone shows out of
hundreds
China are
of them.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's full
yeah.
holographics in the sky already.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and then there was obviously talk of the holographics that can be projected from space, from satellites,
Yes.
and from the ground.
Mm.
So there's all of these things that are all sort of just coming at once at the moment,
Coming
and
together. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where I think the movies have sort of given us a little bit of a preempt to what could be done, what can be done.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
mean, I remember looking at like the early Marvel movies and like the Helicarrier and the designs of those fighter jets with the rotating fans and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally
yep,
doable. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
To have a hybrid. It makes VTOL a lot more efficient,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Um, and that's the other thing too. Like, part of I'm going to do some article shows this year where I'll just read some articles. There's a lot of articles I've been posting to the page. Various types of propulsion and energy technology have advanced quite far in the last 12, 18 months, right?
yeah.
Like they reckon they've got 0 point energy in a vacuum done.
Mm,
We talk about cold fusion.
yeah.
We talk about, the thunder generators, right?
Mm,
You talk about, all these technologies and these thrust technologies. I mean, even if you let's forget there's a shadow. We take SpaceX, right? And you look at
mm,
Falcon 1, the first rocket that they built. and the latest one, it's unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
it's incredibly streamlined.
Yeah.
And say whatever you want, he caught a rocket with a pair of tongs, man. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he landed a rocket on a pad in the ocean. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
insane.
It's
Okay, so
unbelievable. Yeah.
that, but I wonder whether that technology is reaching its end, right?
Mm, mm,
Because it's very impressive, but then you got to say, according to us, and that's SpaceX and Elon is the most advanced. That is the most advanced. Are we to release our disbeliefs and say that no, it's not? There's a space force that's been existing since the '60s,
mhm.
and Trump just ratified it because he thought it was a good idea in 2016, but it's existed the whole time.
Yeah.
What do we say to that? Because the UTC rule is, what if 1% is true?
Hmm. Yeah. Look, I think that, in the realm of possibility that, it could be done because people have alluded to it. Like,
Forever.
discussion starts when people comment on things. They say,
Mm.
"Oh, yeah, what about this?" Um, and that's where I think a lot of things progress and say, "Oh, yeah, finally we'll disclose that yes, we've got a space force that has spent trillions of dollars, and we've got all these multi what do you call it, I guess aircraft carriers or something in space
Mm.
that can launch from the moon, and we've also got a breakaway civilization on Mars already. It's been there for 10 years or 20 years or something
Yeah.
like that, and we just
Yeah.
didn't tell you about it. um, and that's where all these documentaries and movies and things are alluding to these little things, and that's where I think it's that subtle disclosure that we're seeing in so many different ways.
Oh, yeah.
But
The pattern
yeah,
recognition starts going insane once you
that's right.
start digging into the rabbit hole. I mean, yeah, you've got to dismiss a fair percentage of it. However, the grains of truth, the little jigsaw pieces of the code that pop out. You know what I mean? It's like the Matrix. It's like, oh yeah,
Yes.
ding, there's one. Yeah,
Yeah.
ding,
Yeah.
there's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're not going to get to crazy conspiracy theories yet. However, that's where we're going to end. But I mean, so let's bring it back to now, right? So James Fox, the program,
Yep.
we both gave him his $17 or whatever it was.
Yep.
It was worth it for the first one. For the second one, I didn't actually learn too much more, right?
No.
I
No.
saw a better photo of that British UFO from the '60s,
Hmm.
which is looks like a diamond shape
Yep.
almost, which is apparently the best sighting that the one of the best sightings the UK has. And
Hmm.
again, that was '50s, '60s. I couldn't quite remember when I wrote the
Yep.
notes.
Yep.
It's in that period, right? And this is the thing, right? So say they cracked anti-gravity in the '50s, okay, and when you come back to it as well, when we did the deep dive into anti-gravity, it was basically you can go back into the records and late '40s into the '50s, late '50s. It's all anti-gravity is the next big thing. Blah
Hmm.
blah 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 blah. And then somewhere around 1956, I think it is, it just
Yep.
goes
Yeah.
right, just disappears off the face of the planet, and it's not the next new thing.
Hmm.
Um, did that well again? That was when Otis T. Carr was operating. That's when
Mm.
he was doing it.
Hmm. Yeah.
You've got to ask the question as to why they left Tesla broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They took all
Well,
his stuff.
that's where my mind was just going, was that obviously Tesla was all about free energy, and
Yes.
there's no money to be made in that.
No.
So let's go with what was the other guy's name? Um,
Edison.
Edison.
Yeah.
And oh, we can make money off this. We can charge
Mm.
people for this
Yeah.
energy. And
Yeah.
then look how much it costs now. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well, that was
And
one of the
then
reels in the chat the other day. Is that
hmm,
someone's put some money into it and actually built a Tesla tower,
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, this Tesla tower works." Like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it does. Right?
hmm,
There's power in the air. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That
yeah,
we just don't understand how to harness it.
yeah. Let's see how long it takes before it gets blown up
Yeah, that's
or
right.
mysteriously burns down.
Yeah, exactly. Or he drives
Yeah,
into a tree, the only tree
yeah,
within a 5 kilometer radius. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
but I think again, along with the mainstream scientific thrust and MIT, Boston, all these guys, they're working on that technology.
Yeah.
The alternative energy space is not zero either, right?
Mm.
There's people messing with batteries and magnets and getting draw out of these things, right? Not enough to power a house or anything else like that. But there's so many of these things in these reels, and there's little experiments you can do, right, with batteries and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's cool. Um, it's coming, right? It's the tide is rising, right? And I think, is that why they're trying to screw us back? Why they tried to screw us back down again?
Yeah.
It's fascinating. There,
Yeah.
there's so many various technologies coming out and different understandings. And well, I mean, one of the things I used to say was in 1957, you could order a Cadillac Eldorado with air suspension, electric seats, cruise control, air conditioning, power steering, uh, you know, multiple speakers, right? The softest leather air interior. It even had a primitive form of GPS.
Hmm.
You could order that off the
Yeah.
lot in 1957. So
Yeah.
it's like, how far have we really come
Mm.
as far as technology is concerned?
Well, that I think brings us to, and this has always been my theory, is that everything seems to have boomed since 1959. And was it 57? Which year was Roswell? Was that 59?
No, Roswell was 47.
49, 47.
47.
Sorry, yeah,
Roswell was
yeah,
1947. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's where there was that escalation in, we've gone from simple to digital and fiber optics and
Yeah.
all these other things that have sort of
We
appeared.
talk we talk about movie. That's the Transformers movie.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I won't go there yet because there's a few different ones that, um, but and it also brings us into the Matrix and Terminator and everything else as well, which is all sort of part of it.
Well, Terminator is the prequel to the Matrix. That's not disturbing at all.
Well, yeah, you're right.
And what's the line in the first one of the Terminator movies? It's like they can't do that with robots. It's 1984. No,
Yeah,
they can't. Not for
yeah,
about 40 years.
that's right. Yeah, and
And
look
then you
where we are.
see Elon's robots that are going to
Yeah,
be able to help you around the house. They're
that's
not going
right.
to.
Yeah,
Their
yeah,
screen's not going to turn red, and they're not going to strangle you.
yeah.
But it's okay.
I've written these down somewhere, but I don't know where I put it. That's what must be on my
I,
phone. Anyway, yeah. So, I just want to bring it back quickly, back to the drones before we move on to the movies and stuff. But one of the questions that I had was because I haven't been seeing a lot, but what's happening here? Like, because all of this stuff is happening in the US and UK and Middle East, and there's a lot of stuff happening in Israel. And
that's true.
what are we seing here? Like, I haven't seen a huge lot, and I googled it yesterday, and I couldn't find much. But
Well, I've
what
got
have you seen?
a point here that basically said this is exactly what it says: Australian media blackout / control.
Yep.
Right. They will. I mean, they did. I think it was one of the. Been so many videos. I don't know. We'll just say a
Mm-hmm.
video. Okay, that's
Yep.
that's the terminology
Yep.
because there's been so many.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video that was the Channel 9, and right, they're talking about the drones, and they put a comedic spin on it. Oh, drone, Trump loves shooting stuff down, doesn't he? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they did the same thing on the project. I think Anthony was complaining about that on the last
Yep.
live. What's going on in Australia? Well, our brother in arms, Anthony's debunking stuff left and right. He's dead. And he's not incorrect.
No.
However, there was some interesting stuff that was seen around Brisbane,
Mm-hmm.
out near my way. I think I put that video in the chat.
Yep.
I hadn't seen Anthony say anything about that one yet.
Yep.
Um, However, we're going to go and check it out.
Yep.
We're going to go because I'm in the Brisbane Valley. We can get up on the hills and we can look
Yep.
down over the valley.
Yep.
And I'm going to take my telescope with a camera, and because I can put my DSLR
Yep.
into the telescope, and
Yep.
I'll just wind that zoom right back. I'll get a photo of these bloody things if they're there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, right? But I don't know whether we would know. I think
Mm.
Aussies. Fuck it. It's 2025. It's
Mm.
UTC 3. To say that I'm disappointed in a lot of Australians after the last 4 years
Mm-hmm.
is an understatement.
Mm.
To be perfectly honest, how quickly we snap back into line
Yep.
and then just went on like nothing happened as well, is been quite amazing. So I wonder
Yeah.
about the cognitive dissonance. I've got another note here somewhere, and I think it says, uh, COVID learning's sheeple ratio, right? What is the actual ratio of sheeple? We are in a bubble, okay?
Yep. Yeah.
We've got big groups on our social media platforms. We've modified our algorithms to give us the content that we want to see. Uh, yes, that is globally millions of people, right? Hundreds of millions, potentially, who knows, maybe a billion. I don't know, right? It's a lot of people in our bubble. But outside of that, how many people actually care?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, how many people would just, it shocked me to learn how many people I know that watch Sunrise and the news still.
Mm.
A few people have, come out of the closet. Like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's up to you, man. But it's a waste of your life. So I don't know, right? It's like, and even if there was viral drone videos, uh, how many people would just shoot them down? Because that's the Aussie way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that has to be taken into account. Um, but what if? Well, actually, I spent some time today listening to. It's called the Expanse, and
Mhm.
basically
Yeah.
the crop circles that
Yep.
happen in Tully. I
Yeah.
listened to.
The UFO nests or whatever they
Yeah,
call them,
yeah,
saucer
the
nests.
saucer nests, right?
Yep.
Which was before they said they were crop circles.
Yep.
And I listened to, I think there's a 3 episode series. Surprisingly, it's on ABC. I was a bit shocked to see that.
Yeah.
However, good show, well done.
Mhm.
And that went on for years throughout the 50s and 60s, if you believe those shows. There was saucers landing, leaving crop circles for years and years and years and years and years. So I think this stuff does go on,
Mm.
but I think as evidenced by how quickly we walk lockstep, right? I think Aussies just don't say anything.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I do. Yeah, and I wonder whether it's just because we're too busy doing work
surviving.
or surviving,
Yeah,
doing what we do, or that there's so much distraction out there, like whilst you and I are sitting here talking about this right now, the summer nats are on in Canberra, and everybody's down there,
absolutely.
watching cars do burnouts, and
And
um,
don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong
no,
with
nothing wrong with that at
that.
all. I've been there multiple times myself.
Oh, you bastard. I haven't been. I've never been to a summer nats.
No?
Yeah.
You'll have to come down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
right. I know someone down there now.
yeah,
That's
you
it.
do.
Next year, we're summer nats
Yeah,
bound. Yeah. Because, yeah,
yeah.
don't get me talk about distractions. Oh, shiny cars. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm.
Would be happy to come and see that. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it comes back to bread and circuses, right?
That's right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Give
I
them
think
bread and circus and they won't revolt.
that's right. But we've also got a very unique um, society. I think
Yes.
it's very I'm going to say divided in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it's not. But there are different sects of people. You've got people like us who you like to think alternatively and think outside the box, and you've got the people who just think inside the box and they
Mhm.
believe everything that's put in front of them. And I'm not criticizing anybody here, by the way. I just want you to. I'm not trying to create division between anyone because there are people in my life who don't believe any of this stuff that we're talking about. So, and
No,
that's
that's
fine. Like
right.
they don't have to, but
No.
I do think there is a lot of, and I've had people say it to me directly to my face. This stuff's bullshit. It's not real. It's all lies.
Yeah, right.
And I just go, how can you think that way? I mean, I sort of think, well, you're not looking at things with an open mind.
No.
You're just head in the sand, got the blinkers on, tunnel vision. I don't want to think about it. It's too much, which again is fine if you don't want to. Because look, let's admit that the rabbit hole that we are in is pretty deep.
It's deep and it's
Um,
dark.
yeah, it
And you
is.
can't the ultimate answer is pretty disturbing
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah.
I think. Look, I'm picking up what you're saying, right? And
Mm,
I had a bit of a think about this a little while ago, and it actually was a thought. I was listening to a podcast on World War II. I like to listen to Dan Carlin. He's like my He's got an awesome podcast. Actually, his latest 2 episodes on Alexander. If you're doing some driving, man, make some time. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
He's doing a whole series on Alexander the Great. Anyway, it was his show, and he was talking about the propaganda. And then obviously we just lived through $1 trillion propaganda campaign,
Yep.
and then a $400 million propaganda campaign from Albanese the next year. You know what I mean? Like the propaganda's never actually stopped, right?
Mm.
From World War II.
Yep.
They have the school system has been designed, everything is the history has been designed, everything has been propagated to create us a narrative, right? And that narrative was the white picket fence, 2 cars, 2.5 kids, and a dog. And, obviously that has morphed and changed along the way. However, it's the next shiny thing, the next phone, the next car, the next whatever we're talking about, right?
Yep.
And you've got to give them their credit where it's due. They did a really good job.
They did, yeah.
They did a really good job. They enslaved us without us knowing it. And
Yeah, that's it.
you've
Yeah.
got to give it to them. They did a very good job. However, like you said, you've just had someone say to you, everything is bullshit. Well, no, they're actually right. Everything is bullshit. Fucking absolutely everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think in order to see past it, you've got to let go of some stuff. And you've got to have done a certain amount of internal work on yourself, right? Because if you are still driven by distraction, as you say, nothing wrong with Summer Nats. We're going next year for sure. I want to go and see Cars Do Burnouts. However, Summer Nats, sport, whatever, right?
Yep.
If it bleeds, it leads. Like, news.com is just an entertainment and violence page, really, from what I can see. And then, throw a bit of sex in there as well, just to keep everyone interested. It's not actually the news. And it is a big distraction, and I think the way they designed the system, like I said, they enslaved us and we let them. And it's hard to wrap your mind around and hard to see it for what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a thing too about the last 4 or 5 years that we endured, and the fact that I was right about a lot of the things that I instinctually thought in 2020. But I didn't want to be right.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't
yeah.
I didn't want what I thought was happening to be true, because that's really disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants any of this stuff to be true. Listening to the Sean Ryan show today, talking about the bombing at Trump Tower and the terrorist attack.
That's a weird thing, and there's the UAP stuff's tied into that somehow as well.
That's
which is
right.
Very strange. Yeah,
and that's where this everything is connected comes from.
Exactly.
Is that there's all this stuff, and one topic that can have absolutely nothing to do with it is still directly connected to the topic of UAPs.
Yes. Well, there's a few videos going around. It's like they won't release the JFK files, and then it's like, well, you actually already know the things you need to know. He was killed by the CIA. That is true. He got the reason they're not releasing the files has nothing to do with that. And there's a rumor amongst the alternative researchers that it's probably to do with UAP. Right, it's to do with this anti-gravitic technology and all this sort of stuff, and he wanted to release it and get rid of the CIA and get rid of all the secret. You know what I mean? He wanted to actually give it to the world. I think is basically what they're inferring, and they killed him over it. Right?
Yeah, and the same with Marilyn Monroe, because she was involved in it. She was going to come out and say something, and they she just mysteriously committed suicide or overdosed or whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever she did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so And I think it's been going on, like you said, since the 60s. It's people are trying to get this stuff out, but there is this, dark cloud looming over it with, that all these people who are involved, and they can, silence those who are, in a position to come out and talk about it.
Yeah, well, I think that was you wanted to talk about suicides, and how many alternative energy people will just mysteriously die.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
The guy that was, I'm pretty sure the story goes, the guy that invented because there was another guy in South Australia that invented a ceramic engine that ran off water
Mhm.
that never wore and was just as powerful as the 202 at the time,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, and General Motors, Ford, and Holden basically, or just sorry, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler it would have been at the time, not Holden,
Hmm. Yep.
went to this guy, gave him his magical handshake,
Hmm.
shelved that technology, and then I think he crashed into a tree, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only tree in a 10K radius,
Yeah.
with two bullets in the back of his head just because he was trying to make sure he
Yeah.
did it right. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly right. Yeah.
and but that Stanley Meyer, they poisoned him, right? That
Mm.
was his last words. They poisoned me. They poisoned me, right?
Yep. Yep.
It- Part of the problem with this disclosure is there's a darkness to it, right? Because
Hmm.
then they would have to admit that they have killed people over these secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the only reason that I feel confident-ish talking about it now, right, is
Mm.
that there's so many of us talking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's not
That's right.
like it's a new thing. The horse
Mm.
has left the stable now.
Yeah. That's right.
These ideas are being discussed openly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And we're not talking about anything new. And,
no, that's right.
and as we said the other day, the information that we are talking about is out there.
It's out there. Yeah,
It's all coming from the same place.
yeah. We all draw from the same
Mm.
information.
Yeah.
The where we draw blah, 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 blah. There you go.
Hmm.
First vocal stroke of the year, mate. That's good. I just lost my train of thought. I didn't. I lost what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We all draw from the same base of information. Is
That's
basically
right.
what I was trying to say, and
Yeah.
it's all it is interpretation.
Hmm.
As we've said before, and we will continue to say, don't trust us. We don't know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Like it's we're just independent researchers.
Hmm.
Yes, we spend probably a disturbing amount of time looking into all these different
Yeah.
things, right? And it's only the hours that give us the somewhat status to have a chat about it.
Yep.
However, that is the truth, yeah.
Mm. Exactly.
And we don't really know. We don't really know. However, I think it's we come back to sort of what we were circling around before with. Do you have the ability to think critically? Right? Can you remove yourself from said situation or said set of facts and look at it without fear or emotion or bias, right? Can you actually do that? And I think that a lot of people can't, right?
No, that's right.
I heard a disturbing thing that apparently it's like 40% of people don't have a voice in their heads. Like,
It's interesting.
what do you do if you don't?
Yeah.
what,
I
what,
stare at my phone.
yeah, what do you do if you don't have a voice in your head? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. I thought everybody
I mean,
had an
hearing
internal
that,
monologue. Yeah.
my voice in my head is going crazy right now.
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
going,
Exactly. It's fighting. Like, ah.
yeah, yeah. But it also brings me back to, a thought of, I don't know, I've seen that black and white film where there's that little kid walking around in the city and there's all these people around him and they're all just like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why, because we've got this in front of us all the time. We've got
Mm.
screens and videos. Like I lost track of 4 hours last night
Looking
watching
at videos.
videos,
Yeah.
because
That
I
can
was trying
happen.
to, yeah. So like, and I think I got off my computer at like 11 o'clock. I went, wow. I sat down here at 7 o'clock
And
and
just
I'm like, and
got
just
lost for
lost
four
track.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's easy to do. But when you've got people like, I saw it today, like, I was at work and a couple of mates of mine came into the store and one of them was sort of trailing behind and she was just sitting there with a phone in her face and she did not take her eyes off it the entire time she
Oh,
was
didn't
there.
say good day, nothing.
Didn't say
Just,
hello, didn't say, she just sat there and on her phone. And I just went, wow, like that's distraction, it's everywhere. And I was at work in the city a few weeks ago, and the same thing. I sat there because I was off my phone. I was doing
yeah, you were working.
working, and I was watching people, and I was just kind of look at it. There's like 90% of these people are all just walking through on their phones.
Hmm.
They're completely distracted. Like I saw a couple of people almost run into each other.
Oh, YouTube that. That's what you want.
Yeah,
There's a video worth your time. YouTube people walking onto the road on their phones.
yep, yep,
Right? There's compilation videos of people being skittled,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yep,
Because they just don't look up.
yeah. And it was funny. The only people who were completely aware of what was going on around them were the homeless people that were hanging around. Because I kept an eye, I was looking at them and then looking at everybody else. And I looked at the homeless people and I thought, you guys have got it great. You know exactly what's going on around you. You know
Yeah.
who's doing this and who's doing that. And I was just like, wow, unbelievable. And that,
Well,
funnily
these,
enough, brings me back to one of the movies that I was watching the other day,
what's the movie?
John Wick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The homeless
with
people
the
secretly
homeless
running the
people.
world. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But apparently, there's a lot of dudes that, people that do that, right? They're
Mhm.
professionally homeless and they got an apartment in the city somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
look, I think there's so many layers, man.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
like sometimes the best deals are done in broad daylight because
Yeah.
no one cares.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Sometimes the best place to hide is right out in the open,
Plain sight.
because that's no one
Mm.
cares.
Yeah.
And even more so with these screens in front of us. I mean, I've been toiling away at this show for the last, this is year 8 or something like this, right?
Mm,
And go on YouTube and look at the most watched videos if you want an indication of society.
mm.
It's quite disturbing,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy. Like
Mm.
billions of views these videos have got, and they're inane.
Yeah.
They like, how is that? I mean, obviously it could be a lot of kid stuff, maybe, but
Mhm.
um, it's it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Whereas two guys trying to sit down, have a cool conversation about cool ideas, like, well, I'm gonna utilize YouTube and streaming video services a lot more this year. However, um, it still hasn't popped. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like it's our stuff is not as popular as the inane stuff.
Mm.
Um, that has millions and millions of views. Like, you think about all those different reels with characters and partners, like husbands and wives, and you get all that stuff that comes through and they're messing around, and it's got 100,000 views on it.
Yeah. That's right.
It's unbelievable. I
Yeah.
think, like I said before, sheeple ratio.
Yeah. And the,
What's
the
the
thing that disturbs me a lot is that, you see all these YouTube influencers or social media influencers,
Hmm.
and they're talking absolute nonsense.
Nonsense?
And they're making stacks of money.
Yeah.
And
But
I, and
if
I
if 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 YouTube and Google and whatever Facebook controls the algorithm, right? They're feeding us that to distract us. And this is the
yeah.
thing. The problem is, and the reason it's easier to say everything is bullshit is because at some point it's so disturbing, right? And not everything is true, right? However, a variation of that, they're propagating, right? So I mean, this humble little indie Aussie podcast has had, I don't know, 12 episodes taken off YouTube,
Yep.
right? And let's face it, I know what I said on those episodes, and it turned out it was true, right?
Mm.
That was
Mm.
during the censorship. Okay.
Yep.
That was active censorship against freedom of speech on a global scale.
Yep.
So, I mean, one of the things that everyone says about this whole topic, it's like, oh, no one could keep that secret for so long. I'm like, really?
No, they could.
You don't think so?
This is what they do for a living.
Yeah. But
It's
I
it's their
heard,
job.
I don't know whether it was it you I was talking to, or was it a podcast? I don't remember anymore. But it's like, apparently when you enter those governmental agencies, those sorts of divisions, and they see that you have potential, they'll start testing you, right? To see whether you're a
Yep.
sociopath,
Yep.
basically,
Yes.
to see whether or not you will be someone who will just keep the secrets and not say anything,
Yep.
right? Okay, we can tell this dude because he doesn't want to help people.
Mm.
He is
Mm.
quite happy to you know take everyone down with him if that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a certain character type, and again, you got to give it to them. They created a system where the psychopaths, the narcissistic, megalomaniac choose, keep going with the different things.
Mm.
That's who wins in this game that we're
Yeah.
currently in,
That's right. Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
that's if you go back to a tribal sense, right? That if there was a person in the tribe that had that attitude towards other people and that sort of stuff in a group of 100 people, they'd only be tolerated for so long.
That's right.
You know what I mean? They'd be taken
Yep.
for a walk and he fell off the cliff, man. I don't know.
Mm.
Did you see anything? I didn't see shit.
Yeah.
He was there and then he was gone, right?
Yep.
Because it doesn't serve the greater good of the human experiment, apparently.
Mm.
However,
Yep.
they've rigged the game that that personality type wins,
Mm.
and that's who's running the game. So they're all
Exactly. Yeah.
psychopathic sociopaths. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah.
because if 1% is true, they've killed hundreds of people over these secrets.
Mm. Yep.
Hundreds.
Definitely.
Right? Even just the ones we can just, Stanley Meyer, you know what I mean? We can
Mm.
keep them going, right?
Yep.
And again, though, because for the longest time they controlled the media narrative, it wasn't populated. However, the internet wins now.
Yeah,
And I,
that's
and
right.
I, and I think, maybe that's why disclosure is happening, because the connectivity of the global society is overweighing their ability to control it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I think, what I mean, it again brings us back to the documentaries that we're seeing,
Yeah.
the independents, like, you got your Stephen Greer, James Fox, Jeremy Corbell,
Yeah.
George Knapp.
Jordan Knapp. Yeah. And
Um,
there's been a glut of them.
there
And
have,
yeah.
yeah. And even Graham Hancock,
Mhm.
even though, a lot of these shows, like the ones that I've been watching recently, like the Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp Investigation Alien, it's on Netflix.
Yep. Have you finished that
Um,
yet?
yeah, yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I was. I'm not convinced. So there's a few things I think work, and having spent a little bit of time in working in television, and when I say working in television, I was a bystander watching television happen around me, and the way that they can manipulate situations to benefit the viewer and to increase ratings and to make it good television. Um, there's a couple of scenes there that I think were deliberately staged. So one being the one where they were out in the ocean,
The Orb Out of the Ocean.
the orb out of the ocean, popping in and out. I think that was completely staged.
Really?
It to me, it didn't look real.
But it's
I
not
mean,
supposed to, is it? That's the, you know what I
no,
mean? Like,
exactly right. Yeah. So look, I could be completely wrong, but my personal feeling is that was staged, because I just thought,
yeah.
how
I see.
convenient.
I wonder. Do you know what I wonder about myself? Whether I'm still whimsical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Look.
I'm like, I just want to believe so much.
Oh, so
You
do
know what I
I.
mean?
So do
And
I.
but again, George Knapp is a journalist. He is the
Mhm.
original, one of the originals. He's the one that
That's
brought
right.
Bob Lazar out in 1980, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm. Look, I could be, as I said, completely wrong. And as I said, I do want to believe that that was real. But I find it extremely convenient that it happened when they were there. But
but isn't that
who
the
knows?
reason they were there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. But they were
You know what
also
I
there.
mean?
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
was the reason. If you follow that, look, and again, that was done for
Hmm.
visual pleasure. But the
Yep.
reason they were there is that they investigated, and this was the spot where multiple
Yep.
people had seen it, right?
Yes. Yep.
And just look, one of my theories ongoing is about magnetite,
Hmm.
and magnetite seems to be located in those islands out through the Bahamas in South
Yep.
America. A
Yep.
lot of those islands are built out of it. They're built on beds of magnetite. I think that magnetite is one of the key pieces that the anti-gravitic technology needs to have to actually to work, right?
Yep. Mhm.
The thing is, where do you go from there? Okay, all right. So
Yep.
I hear it's bullshit. Maybe it could be right. And the thing is, they can do amazing things with TV.
Mm. Mm.
And I think I'm just whimsical, right?
Yeah.
I do want to believe.
Mm.
That's why I can't. I really want to get Anthony on. Me and him are going to have a really cool discussion.
Yep.
Um, However, what if it is true?
If it is, it's awesome, because it was. So the one thing I will say, it was extremely clear footage.
Mhm.
You're looking at 4K cameras.
Yep.
Extremely clear footage. Um, the light traveling in and out of the water.
Mm. Did you
Um,
listen to the weaponized where they had that dude on from the show?
no, I haven't.
Take your
No.
time and listen to that. Like,
Mm.
to me, after listening to that, like I watched the thing and I listened to that, and it's like those two things together. Listening, I spend all day listening to voices, man. Like that's literally my job, right?
Mm.
Um, not just the ones in my head either, like actual voices and stuff.
Yeah.
And he, from my perspective, he was being genuine, right? And that what they showed in the document in the series was true. They didn't understand they had that footage until later. It was only
Yep.
like a week later when he was just going
Mm.
through, cycling through, looking at the footage that he came across that.
Yep.
And but then that begs the question. I don't think that's us. If that's
Mm.
real,
Mm. That brings us to, um, I guess, the movies, and one of the biggest movies that I think has to do with that, and also the recent congressional hearing
Hmm.
where they said, "Oh,
Aliens live in the ocean.
aliens live in the ocean."
No one
Are
cares.
they?
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right. Don't worry, it's not important. Aquaman.
Yeah, I was going to say Aquaman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that if that movie is not telling us that there is a breakaway civilization or another form of life living under the ocean or in the earth or where, because you've got to remember that they weren't just in the water. It was at Aquaman, the first one, where he went into the hollow earth.
Yes,
So
but
there's that.
but the ant people is something that goes back, right? I mean,
Yes.
come back to everything is connected, yeah, right.
Yep.
There's multiple stories from multiple cultures. Oops, sorry, I'm getting excited. Around the planet that
Yep.
say that before the cataclysm, they came up and they said, "Hey, come with us." Right. I think it's particularly the Native American tribe, the Hopi. I think it is the one that
Yep.
everyone knows. But if you start digging into that, there's more than one culture that's their
Yes.
story.
Yep.
You've got to take Kiyu into account too. What is a
Yep.
10-story, like, it's not for battle. What
No,
you wouldn't, that's not, you don't understand, like, just stand three dudes at the door and no one's ever coming out until they
that's
die.
right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's this is Spartans all over again. That's the
Hmm.
reason the 300 held the gap, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, you've got to take this stuff into account.
Yeah.
But then that's 12,000 years ago,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
But what's the other thing that's pervaded in myth, in storytelling, in
Mm.
fairy tale, right? The dwarves, the elves, the humans,
Yep.
Tolkien, right?
Yep.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's these stories have pervaded our existence for the longest time. And it's like,
Yep.
I found the that were you on when I did the slideshow, the UFO slideshow that I did? I think I did it on a live one time, and
Possibly.
I'll just let me bring it up.
Okay. While you're doing that,
Mm,
I've lost my train of thought now.
mm.
I guess back to the movies, but it also brings us, because I was listening to something the other day, and I think it was one of the videos I might have posted or have saved it somewhere about the reptilians and how, they are, um, essentially the shadow government that we're dealing with.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had a disturbing, like, we talked last night and said we need to back out of the rabbit hole. We're starting to
Mhm.
get lost, but then neither of us did. It turns out
No.
till 11 o'clock last night because I was there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't with you, but I was there in
No.
spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what if they are walking among us?
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
And again, it comes back to the movies that they've been subtly talking about it for 40, 50, 60 years.
Mm.
And I was watching a documentary the other day. I think the first two episodes were specifically about the reptilians, and it was a David Icke film, I think,
Yeah,
or
David Icke. Yep.
he was in it. And after the second episode, it just got too much, and I was like, "This is ridiculous!" Like it took a complete right
Yeah,
hand
he's a
turn,
lot,
and
David Icke.
yeah,
He
he
is a
is.
lot.
Yeah,
They don't let him into Australia anymore, which again,
yeah,
talk about controlled
yeah,
media. Sort of,
yeah,
you got to look at some of stuff like that, that the people they won't even let into Australia to talk. There's
yeah,
a long list of people that they won't even let in,
yeah.
which speaks to some control of a narrative. Me and the missus had tickets to his talk
Yep.
in Brisbane or something, but I think that was happening in 2020. So,
Hmm.
nothing happened
Yeah.
after January 2020.
Mm.
But yeah, look, and this is the thing. This is where 1% is true basically came from, was stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like you want to pull Angus's string, ask him about evolution of dinosaurs, right? Dinosaurs had
Million
million
years, yeah.
years to evolve, right?
Hmm.
Where did they get to if we got from horseback to rocket ships in 200 years? Um,
Mm.
it's an interesting question.
Well, that was so that I do, I guess, have a similar view on that. Is that, did they evolve into the reptilians somehow along the
Geez, we're
way?
out there, aren't we? We're out there.
Well, the only reason I say that is because I remember watching a video. It was all about dinosaurs back when I was in my. I'm going to say I think it was made in like 1984.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Dinosaurs, 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 and it was an American documentary. And I remember this scene where they had, I think it was like a Struthia mimus, so one of the emu-looking ones, with the long tail and the long neck and the small head. But if they evolved into, bipedal humanoids, what they would look like,
or some
yeah,
version. Yeah.
and that's essentially what a reptilian is.
Yeah.
They look very similar. But
And
then
the other thing is too, again, we take the 1% as true.
Mhm.
There's a lot of documentation if you start digging into the rabbit hole
Yep,
of these Marines fighting these beings
yep,
underground.
yep,
They get into battles with these things,
mhm,
and there's all this weird ass symbology behind it.
yep.
And that again, what if 1% of those stories is true?
That's right. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Who lives underground? Who lives in the ocean?
Mm,
It would make
mhm,
sense that maybe a variation of reptilian lives in the ocean.
mm.
If you think about it, they're
Yep,
adapted to the water a lot better than we are.
yep.
I mean, one of the best arguments for intervention as opposed to evolution is that for a planet that's 2/3 water, we can't swim real good.
No, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like if that's what we were supposed to
Mm,
be, you'd think we'd be able to swim a little bit better
yep.
if we evolved on this planet.
Yeah,
Or
and when you look at all the different prehistoric evidence, for other humanoids,
Mm,
um, you know, um, that are all now extinct,
yes.
what's to say that they weren't already there,
Mm.
and they've been here since day dot, which
Well,
also brings us to biological manipulation and
mhm,
creating of the human race. And
mhm.
did the Anunnaki actually come to Earth, and or are the Anunnaki the people who are living under the ocean?
Well, this is, it's quite funny that this slideshow that I bring up
Yep.
was, actually, I'll just bring it up.
Yeah.
Right,
Sure.
you want to dig into a rabbit hole,
Hmm.
and just remember we are on audio too. But these ones are going to be going on a video as well. So basically, this is a full. So here's is the that's the Nazi bell,
Yep. The
right?
bell.
And
Yep.
that's the another design they found, and
Hmm.
that's the OTC X1, right? So
Yep.
we discussed that already. That's the OTC X1,
Hmm.
and and we go backwards. That's all the blueprints. There he is. There's the Utron. I'm pretty sure that's made out of magnetite.
Yep.
That's what these things are, and
Hmm.
that's the thing that he never told anybody.
Right.
He never revealed what the Utron was made out of. That's probably why
Okay.
they took him. Um,
Unless it's element 115.
unless it's element one. Well, how do you derive element 115? I
That's
wonder.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you
didn't
know,
they say that it had to be created in a hadron collider?
yeah, potentially,
Mm.
potentially, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, just
Yeah.
prehistoric art, ancient Middle East Sumerian art,
Yep.
99 BC, 8th century BC, 14th century. You know what I mean? This
Yep.
stuff's been going on and on and on, right?
Mm.
And here's a story that we've all told as kids here in Australia. The three wise men followed a light across the desert, right, to Bethlehem. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
like what are we talking about there, right?
Mm. Mm.
The connotations in the Bible are quite interesting, right?
Yeah, that's right.
1937, 1783. These things have been spotted in the sky.
Yep.
That's the
That one on the
Mint
right.
Mule.
Yeah.
That's
That
the
was the one I was going to, when you were talking about the one that was taken in England,
yes,
I reckon,
that's the
yeah,
best other one, the
I
Macmillan
reckon this
one.
is the other most convincing one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the other McMinnville one. I mean, that's the
Mm.
classic flying saucer, right? And that's so
That's
that's
right.
1950. Okay, would we say Roswell's 47? So,
Yep. Yep.
but again, just as a reminder, because we're sort of in that area, what's a Foo Fighter?
Mm.
A
Mm.
Foo Fighter is the name that the Allies gave to the balls of light and the things that were attacking them while they were doing raids, right? That is what a Foo Fighter actually is. That's where it started. And if you dig into that, there's evidence of, the Axis and the Allies having a radio communication to say, hey, it's not us,
Mm.
right? Because they started shooting at things that weren't there.
Yep.
Well, they could see them, but you know what I mean? Like, again,
Mm.
that's what happened during World War II. And obviously, you've got the peak over nuclear sites in,
Yep.
post the, and I think, again, what happened out at Whyalla, right? I mean,
Mm.
there's a town out in the back of South Australia that there's UFO stuff everywhere, right? So one of the UFO hotspots,
Yeah. Yep.
and the common thing, that's where the testing range is, right? We talk
Mm.
about Pine Gap, we talk about
Yep.
these places. There's all these things that, if you start digging into the Australian stuff, but again, it stops. It
Mm.
stops, right? I
Yeah.
think they squash it. I think they
Yeah.
squashed it.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if you want to, I mean, do we want to go alternative origin theory? Maybe that's for another time. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
for
think
another
so.
time,
Yeah.
because
We
I've
we
got I've got tektite strewn fields, I've got Palladian stuff, I've got all sorts of
mm.
stuff, Paracas
Yeah.
skulls. Okay,
Practice, yeah.
so maybe that's for another time, because I think
Yep,
we
definitely.
talk about everything is connected. An alternative origin story and theory probably is something we
Mm.
need to spend a bit of time on. I think
Mm.
just
And I
just
think we
thinking about
did
it.
we did broach it in one of the previous episodes.
Yes, I think we said we were going to
Um,
come back to it, didn't we?
that's
We
right.
talked,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
we did.
all right. Well, that's it. That's all right. So
Yeah.
first note of the night is, everything is connected alternative origin. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because there's a few different variations of that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Um, but look, it's there's not nothing to that either,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Uh, it's well, where did I get to on my list? Right. So we talked about. I mean, I've got to get Grant Levac back on the show this year.
Yeah. Yep.
He does he's petitioning Parliament, our Parliament, and stuff like that, or he was. I don't know where he's at with that, but he was into the Five Eyes thing. So
Yep.
it's not like Australia's not read into this stuff, because they are.
No,
Uh,
that's right. But
and we,
they don't talk about it. And that's,
because,
or if they do, they say, no, we don't have anything to do with that. But that's the common response from everybody, isn't it? No, we don't know anything
yes.
about it.
Well, you got to remember too that our F-18s have got the same sensor upgrade that those guys did. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the sensor upgrade came from us, right?
Yeah,
You
that's
know what I
right.
mean?
Mm.
So, and we've got our full complement of F-35s now, which have even better systems than
Yep.
they do.
Yep.
So if these things are happening off our coastline, then we'd be seeing them too.
That's right.
But again, I wonder, again, it comes back to, like I said, I made it a point, Australian media blackout and control. I think it's a
Mm.
very tightly, because the tall poppy syndrome is still very alive in Australia. Like if you think about some of the most popular podcasts in Australia, it's blokes, Aussie bogans telling bad stories pretty much. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's, so there's still that, we talk about that culture that we still are a part of, right? That is, it's beginning to break through, I think. I think there's,
Yeah.
the evidence, I want to believe the evidence is becoming overwhelming for some of this stuff. However,
Mm.
um, we don't really know. Again, we're in a bubble
We're
inside
in
a
a
bubble
bubble.
inside a
Yeah.
bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right.
Um,
We're in a vacuum.
we are, and we've
Mm.
got to be very aware of that. I
Yeah.
think it's important.
Mm.
You know, well, actually, while we're still talking about ancient stuff, we sort of ended up there. I've got a dot point here. What truth is there to advanced ancient tech? Gifts found in temples.
Mm.
Has there been tech found hidden? Smithsonian. I've got Smithsonian and Vatican, e.g. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's a question too, right?
Mm.
If they were advanced prior to the cataclysm to the point where they had mastered anti-gravity, refer back to the Vedas, the Indian stuff, the battles in the
Yep.
sky. Like,
Hmm.
again, there's nothing to that either. And if you look at that objectively and read it, it's like, well, what else are they talking about apart from a sky battle? Um, there's all the artifacts that were found in South America that look like little fighter planes, and there was stuff found in Egypt, and there's the stories about that as well that go back in ancient culture.
Yep.
So and then you talk about movies. Do you know what a movie that I thought of? Because I'm going to get one to put it up on the wall here. Stargate.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Well, the whole thing is set all around that.
Yes.
But I look at Stargate because if I recall, um, it wasn't time travel as such. It was a wormhole to
Wormhole.
the other side of
Yes.
the
It was another
universe.
Stargate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't watched a lot of the series, but there was
Oh, look, I
a
work
lot. A
FIFO.
lot.
I watched all of them.
You watched all. So the ones that I did see, they were traveling all over the universe.
Yeah, all throughout the galaxy. Basically, you
Yeah.
were bouncing
Well,
through galaxy as long as you
yeah.
had the right address. You needed
Yeah.
the home button
Mhm.
and the six
Yeah.
constellations,
Yep.
and that would then bounce you through those six constellations to your destination through the other
Yep.
Stargate.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to 2025, and they have wormhole theories pretty solid, right?
Hmm.
They believe that wormholes do exist,
Yep.
and if you believe, what's his name, Alex? What's his name? I can't remember what else.
I can't
Crazy
remember.
Alex. Crazy Alex. You know who I'm talking about.
Probably do.
Um, they're interdimensional. They're coming from the sky and through portals, right? He
Yep.
said that they're interdimensional for a long time, right?
Mm.
So again, we have to add that into it,
Hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
And,
It's
and if they're interdimensional, what dimension are they coming in on,
mm,
right? So if they walk among us, because that's the other thing is that what are these orbs? They look like they're not totally there. A
yeah.
lot of people say they're not totally there
Yeah.
because what you're looking at is an interdimensional,
Hmm.
something interdimensionally.
Yes.
Uh, and again, interdimensional math and all that sort of stuff is well proven. It's not like it's not true either. So it's like these things are being proven true with the math, okay? But then when we say, oh, well, maybe it's actually happening and it's been happening for a long time, we're crazy. However, the evidence would suggest that there is something there. The breadcrumbs would suggest, the matrix, the pattern suggests that there's something to this. And
Mm.
maybe there was gifts. Right? Maybe they did find ancient tech. I think it's, we talk about coincidi, right? How many coincidences? We got
Hmm.
to bring back the UTC dictionary, by the way. Coincidi is one of the
Coincide. Yep.
word is one of the words. How many coincidi do you need? Right. So I've got three people and that I trust that knew someone who stood guard at the museum in Baghdad for they went in, they took trucks of all sorts of sizes, they brought all this massive stuff out, they put it into the trucks and they drove it away. And I know someone who knows someone who stood guard.
Yep.
But then just through knowing some other people, I know someone who knows someone who knows someone. You know what I mean? Like there's been
Hmm.
three coincidi,
Yep.
which gives me my triangulation, right? So it's like, okay, well, what the bloody hell did they invade Baghdad and take out of the museum?
Mm.
They didn't tell anybody about that. Like, what
No.
did they take? Did they take the Stargate? That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Well, and also the temples that were destroyed.
Yes.
There's been a lot of those. And it's not just in the Middle East, it's everywhere. Like,
Mm.
and like you talk about China with all of their pyramids that apparently don't have that, you know,
Well, the thing about the Chinese, it was a Chinese response. I mean, people can't grasp the fact that up until 400 years ago, the Chinese were sailing the globe in
mhm,
ships that were four times the size of the Spanish galleons,
mhm.
giving stuff away.
Yep.
That's what they were doing,
Yep.
right?
Same as the Polynesians.
Same as, you know what I mean? They were sailing the oceans and giving stuff away in these unbelievably massive ships. And basically, the current string of emperors goes back to when they shut their borders, right? But we know China is older than we can even understand, I think.
Mm.
And it was the classic Graham Hancock investigated, and he asked the Chinese, and it was a classic Chinese answer. It's like, yeah, they're there.
Mm.
No, we're not sure, but we got time.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not what we're focused on right now.
No.
We're focused on world domination right now. We'll get to the pyramids later.
Yeah.
Um, and but again, you start digging into pyramids, they're everywhere,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Everywhere. So it's like, what are we talking about here? Uh, Everything is connected. Right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't forget, we come back to Stargate. The pyramid was the the landing platform for the ship.
Yeah. Well, no,
Right?
there was a landing platform. The pyramid was the ship.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. It went. It landed on top of the
On
pyramid.
top of it, did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it connected the Stargate that was in the pyramid.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Yeah.
Look, I'd be
We need to
lying
go
if
back and watch them.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a tragic back in the day.
I've always had a very strong, vivid imagination, and I like to watch a lot of those movies. And it was funny, like going back and watching a couple of movies that I haven't seen for years, and I'm like, oh, I didn't pick up on that. You know, mind you, I was 20 years younger, or
Yes.
30 years younger.
Yes.
Super Mario Brothers is a perfect example. Like I watched that the other day, and as bad as it was, as terrible
Mm.
as the movie was, there was a lot of stuff in there that I went, oh, I get that little subtle hint there, and
Yes.
little things like that.
But
So yeah,
at what point when you start doing that sort of stuff, I always wonder whether I'm crazy,
yeah, that's right.
you know?
And
But
I think the fact that you're asking yourself, "Am I crazy?" says that you're not crazy.
well, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah,
Right?
because I did the same.
Crazy people don't know that they're crazy. And the
Exactly.
fact that we think that we're crazy means
Mm.
that we're not crazy.
Yeah. So it cancels itself out
Yeah,
somehow.
apparently. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = a window or something. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's but there I mean, go back to Star Wars, Star Trek,
Hmm.
they're all these things, like it's
I think
the
Star Trek more
force,
so.
right?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
force is the one thing.
so and not to sidetrack because I know I want to stay on topic, but I think it was Billy Carson was talking about the whole Force thing and how it has to do with Osiris and the Jedi are actually the whole story of the Jedi of where they got Star Wars from is based on ancient texts, which I find that
Billy Carson has a knack of relating everything back to
yes, he
ancient
does.
texts.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I was just about to say that. It was actually funny. I was watching a documentary last night, um, and his body movement and the way he talks and the way he sort of yeah.
Oh,
I
he might be
actually
from around here.
I looked at him and I went, "Is he a robot?"
Is he? Is he not
he
from around here? Is
no,
he, or
well, I don't know,
is
but
he
I looked at it because
is he a humanoid hybrid? Is that what we're saying?
no, I actually because I was looking at something that about AI and robots and stuff, and I'm like, he's the way he moves and just shifts and stuff. He's the way his body moves. I just think he
Mm.
looks like a robot.
Well, do you know, as you were talking about movies, Mission
Mm.
Impossible, and
I,
the
mm,
suits that they put over their faces, right? It's like they become someone else. You get a voice
yeah,
changer, and they just put the mask on, and you can't
yeah,
tell,
yeah,
right? I mean, they did that to us blatantly late last year when the giant Biden turned up. Did you see that? Right. So this dude who was Biden in the face
yeah,
was like 6 inches taller than Biden and
yeah,
could actually walk.
yeah.
Right. And he waved and they passed it off as Biden. It's like, that's clearly not him. The dude can walk. He knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like he's got a gait about him and he's 6 inches taller. What are you talking about? But the face,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
It's like, you
that's
know,
what I was getting at was these masks that
hmm
that they're showing, and I don't know if I shared the video or not. I've definitely saved it, and I'll try and share it with you. But it was basically going through this warehouse or this lab where they've got all these different faces of the masks, and Donald Trump was there, Joe Biden was there,
yeah.
um, all these different people, The Rock,
hmm
and then in the background there's this robot that's just moving around, and it looks completely natural. A couple of little things, which is why I picked up on when I thought, I wonder if Billy Carson is a robot.
We're deep,
and
we're
and
deep in the rabbit hole
if
tonight.
look if by some chance he's listening to this, I'm not
Look,
saying you are.
I did have him on the list for
Well,
UTC2.
yeah,
Maybe not anymore, considering we just said he was a robot. But
no, I'm not saying he
I
is.
still
And,
want
and
to talk
look,
to you, Billy. I've got 1,000 questions.
yeah, I'm really keen to listen a bit to talk to him about the Anunnaki stuff. I think that's
Yes,
probably my biggest thing because I've got a big, strong something with that,
it
a
feels
connection with
a
it.
version of that feels true.
Yeah.
That's a version of that feels true,
Mm-hmm.
right? That yeah.
I think
Um,
the timelines are a little bit skew if.
yes, I think
I
all the
think,
timelines are off. I think there's
yeah,
nothing. There's two things that we need to take into account when we're talking about whether it be Anunnaki or ancient stuff, right? I think and no timeline is accurate.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, Also, that there is um, what does cataclysm do to a planet,
yeah.
right? As far as compression of carbon and all these sorts of things, and you know what I
Mm,
mean. Like, what
mm,
does it actually do, and what could be left, right? Um, but look, when Angus and I got to the end of the the book that we did, I honestly think these stone circles, part of them is measuring when Nibiru comes back.
mm,
Honestly,
mm.
right? And that's why it's the cycles, the 3,000 year cycle.
Yeah,
Every 3,000 years, it hooks in,
yeah,
and then every now and again, it's going to slide right past us, right?
mm,
And it maybe happens every 12,000 years,
mm,
13,000 years, every half cycle or every
yeah,
full cycle.
yeah,
And look, I know that it sounds crazy, but again, what do we do with the information that in multiple sources, even some corporate media sources have said James Webb Telescope, detects mothership coming towards Earth. Oh yeah, that's cool, man. Right?
yeah.
No one cares,
It's
right?
self-correcting and it's moving beyond the speed of light.
Yes, and it's coming towards us and has done for the last
Mm,
12, 18 months. I think
yeah,
the earliest reports that I got of that were about 18 months ago.
yeah, okay,
12, 18 months ago, because I looked at
yeah,
it because I thought I wonder when the first time I heard that was, and I did a bit of a dive in. It's about a year.
yeah,
So if it's moving at light speed from where the outside
mm,
of the solar system, but if it's self-correcting and slowing down, then
mm.
like
Well, then it's not.
what do you do with that information? Like,
Well, that's it, and that sort of breaks it down into a few different areas. That if it doesn't sound, if it's slowing down, then it wouldn't be Nibiru.
yeah, but what if it's
It's
a scout ship,
well, that's it. It could be a skip, but he said it was.
quite
So I
large,
heard, yeah.
5 miles
I
wide or
heard either
something?
quite large, quite big, one big thing,
Mm,
or multiple things that are
mm,
traveling,
together. There's
together.
an armor. Yeah, I heard the
Yeah,
armada.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Either
again,
way,
that could just be the fake news people telling us different things so that the conspiracy
look,
theorists go crazy.
yes, that's right. That's right. And I did have, when on the second page here, it's like controlled disclosure, misinformation, disinformation, and distraction.
Mm,
Because
yeah,
you've got to take into account that how much of that is actually going on,
yeah.
right? And it's definitely not zero.
No,
It's
that's
definitely
right.
not zero, right?
No,
And again, I'm not saying that I believe there's a mothership heading towards Earth. I'm not
mhm,
saying that because I don't know, right?
that's right.
All I know is that it's been, it's come through the grapevine multiple times, and all of a sudden there's all these weird things in the air,
Yep.
and part of the plan is to get people used to having weird things in the air.
Mm,
And as we discussed, the sheeple ratio, you know, oh yeah, there's things in the air, right?
mm,
The government knows. That is
yeah.
the most disturbing. You know, what's the some of the most disturbing words in the world? We're here from we're from the government and we're here to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Like,
Here, sign this NDA.
yeah, sign this
Yeah,
paperwork, and
yeah,
then
we'll help you.
what car do you drive? Has it got a
Yeah,
chip in it? Oh, just don't worry, it's okay.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah. We'll switch your brakes off. Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Oh dear. Yeah.
So, well, here I had a bit of a list of names here, right? When we talk
Mhm.
about disclosure, Lazar, Knapp, Greer, Elizondo, Corbell. You can add a number of different other names to that list if you want to.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Interestingly, that Greer says Elizondo is a shill.
Mm.
Everyone doesn't like Greer. You know what I mean? It's like the battle
Mm.
lines within the disclosure groups are quite fascinating as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And I find it interesting because Greer's been at this for what 30 something years.
Long time, yeah,
Yeah, I think it was 33 years he quoted the other day in one of his documentaries,
yeah.
which is the new one, which is UFO Endgame.
I haven't seen
Um,
that one yet. What's on
I'm
that?
I'm halfway through it. It's hard to watch. Like it's very much just a lot of talking. Um,
Where's it on YouTube? Is it or
it's on Prime Video.
okay? Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
Prime Video.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's on there.
What's it called?
UFO Endgame. So that's his latest documentary, um, and it's yeah, it look, it's interesting, but it's much the same stuff. And this is the one thing I'll say about all the documentaries, and you mentioned it earlier, is that we're not getting anything
Not
new.
learning anything.
No,
I haven't learned anything really in a long time. I
no,
was,
and
I was curious where Nap took it,
mm,
like with his documentary series about the cattle mutilation. I mean, that's something we
yep,
haven't talked about either.
yep,
That's weird. That goes on in Queensland the whole time.
mm.
I've heard, through a friend of mine, like I've heard multiple cattle mutilation stories happening out west and stuff like that. Every time I've tried to pull on that string, the Aussie, they shut down. No one wants to
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah,
But I've seen that time and time again. That happens in Australia as well. We talk about
mm,
Australian stuff.
yep,
Um, what the hell's that about? What are we, mutilating cattle and animals for? I don't know.
yeah.
But again, that's not us then, is it? Right? Or is
No,
it
that's
us? And
right.
we're doing disturbing things to animals, which whatever. But
Mm,
you start drawing weird lines here.
yeah.
Um,
And I think that's the problem we have is in Australia is that nobody wants to tackle this topic. I mean, look, you've got a few people, Ross Coulthardt's one
yeah,
that
Ross Coulthard.
springs
Yep.
straight to mind. And
Mm,
look, I've been watching a few of his videos, and he seems to think something big's coming.
yes.
He
That's
thinks that, whether or not it's disclosure, I think he's said, something in 2025 is going to happen and something's going to change. Whether or not that's to do with the drones and whether that's a distraction from something,
mm.
whether it's UAPs and whether it's non-human intelligence, whether it's uh, when I say non-human intelligence, whether it's extraterrestrials, ultra terrestrials, interdimensional beings, whatever.
What if it's the or the
Doesn't
above?
Well, that's it, and that's the other thing. Like, but then again, what if it's World War Three? Like,
Yes.
fuck, like
Yes.
it just the
Well,
mind boggles at when we talk about distractions. Whether these drones are from China
Chinese playing peekaboo. Yeah.
and they're poking the bear. And I heard something the other day that said under
But see, the
um,
China thing falls over with critical thinking because everything comes from China.
yeah, that's right.
How are we going to go to war with the industry and the things that are needed to fund and keep the war machine going, which we all
Mhm.
understand is local production, which we just don't have,
No,
right? So what's China going to fund everybody to fight itself? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
what are we doing? Like the World War Three thing. When I thought about it critically the other day, it's like, well, hang on a minute, we're not in a position.
no.
Could you imagine the 18 to 25-year-olds joining the military now? Like,
Yeah,
God help
yeah,
us, right?
yeah. That's
Um,
right. The cat people.
the military is in disarray, has been
Mm.
for many, many years now.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I know that from ex-diggers and service members that have left the military.
Mhm.
Um, World War Three falls over because everything comes from China. Like,
yeah. That's right.
there's no way to actually propel the Western war machine anymore because no one
That's
has the
right.
capacity to do it.
Exactly. So, are we now dealing with the new world order? Is the new world order?
Well, we come back to shadow government, don't we? Right?
Yeah, but is the new world order complete global domination by China? I mean, in my view, it's been happening for 50, 60 years. I mean, not to be racist here or anything like that. I've got no problem with anyone
Oh, we don't have
whatsoever.
to worry about that, mate. We're just
No, no,
having a
no.
conversation.
But what I'm saying is that if you go to Sydney or Melbourne, the majority of people are not Caucasian.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
not. They're not.
no,
They're not. They're not
no.
convict Australians. If we're going
That's
to be
right.
legal,
Yeah, exactly. So,
right?
and I don't want to go down that road whatsoever
No,
because
no, no. There's been
yeah,
an infiltration and an immigration for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
again, again, everything's connected, right? Are
mm,
these drones and this stuff, and the fact that the lefty liberals, for want of a better term, have basically opened the borders of every single country around the
mm-hmm,
planet,
yeah,
let in terrorists. You want to talk about Sarah Adams, and
yeah,
they,
yep,
they had some really good shows with Sean Ryan. That
yep,
terrifying.
yeah,
However, the thing about, you listen to someone like Sarah Adams, then okay, so you magnify that for America, then you zoom out and go, okay, 1 or 2% for Australia, right? Which
yep,
means there is cells operating as we speak, blah blah
mm-hmm,
blah blah blah.
yep,
Okay,
yep,
um, And look, that's potentially true. I've got
Mm,
no doubt
mm.
about that. And the government let them in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's this whole big collective trauma that no one wants to talk about anymore. And I
Yeah.
understand because it was a
Mm,
big collective trauma.
hmm.
But if COVID was a big distraction, what the fuck were they doing behind the scenes? You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that
I don't have an answer for that,
the
but if
shadow government I'm probably talking
that's,
about
yeah,
more
that's
than
right. So,
the three-dimensional government, we'll say.
yeah. So, are they moving? Well, because that leads us down a completely different rabbit hole.
Yes, it
We
does.
start talking about underground cities. We start talking
Which do
about,
exist, yes.
yep. Yeah, we
Hmm.
start talking about moving money and all kinds of things around.
Hmm.
Um, uh,
The thing is that regardless
yeah.
of which way you look at it,
Mm,
the chess pieces, the global chess pieces that we are aware of,
mhm.
right? We think, the sheep will think that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. That's not true. The richest
No.
man in the world is there's multiple trillionaires in the world
Hmm.
now, multiple, right?
Hmm.
It's not more than one. And what's a trillion? A trillion is a billion billions, right? I think, or a million
I think, is it a
billions.
thousand billions? I don't know.
Well,
Hang
yeah.
on.
What is a trillion?
I'm going to
How much
Google
is
it.
a trillion? Let's
Uh,
Google it. We
uh,
need to know that to get that right. However, again, you don't lose $200 trillion under the couch. Okay,
yeah.
what did $2 trillion do? Right? What did
Yeah.
we're down the rabbit hole.
Mm,
3 days before the twin towers fell. Oh, sorry, we lost another 2 trillion.
yeah.
Like, what have they been doing with that money?
Mm.
Because we haven't
Space.
advanced. Exactly, Space Force, right? Well, dude. I
Mm,
think I said it. I don't know whether I said it to you. I've said it in the last few years.
mm.
When Space Force, that's what happened. When Trump did Space Force, everyone had a laugh, right?
Yep.
However, how many is a trillion, by the way? Do we
A
know?
million millions.
A million millions is a trillion. Wow. Okay. Anyway, you don't lose a million millions, right? Imagine that in $100 bills.
Mm.
Where is it going?
It's.
Okay.
I think we're talking about 7 million millions now. Seven
Yes.
trillion or
Seven,
more.
7 trillion or more. Yeah. That's
Yep.
just, it's fairy dust, man. It's FUBAR. It doesn't
Mm.
exist.
Yep.
Um, Again, remembering that we haven't had any advancement in passenger jet travel, really vehicles until the electric cars. But is that an
But they're
advancement or is that a
no.
sidestep of
Yep.
control? You know what I mean? Like there's been
Mm.
no real, as far as the old, and it's funny. It wasn't What the Bleep Do We Know? There was that conspiracy documentary in the 90s. What was it called? And they said they were going to chip our hands. That's what they said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't quite chip our hands, but they gave us
No.
these things.
Well, they did because
They
these are in
did
our
because
hands all the
the whole
time.
time, exactly, right?
And the fact that their cameras are on all the time
Yes,
watching you,
watching you. Yeah,
their microphones are on all the time
all the
listening
time.
to us.
Yeah.
I would even hazard that they may have some sort of, I mean, obviously algorithms, they pick up on everything that we do.
Hmm.
But do they have something that can actually pick up on our brain waves or something? I know that's a big stretch, but do they have the
Is
technology
it?
that well, that's it. Well, I don't know.
What was the
Um,
COVID shot for? If it didn't work and it doesn't do anything, didn't
mm,
stop you getting it, nothing happened, actually probably made you worse, then what was it for?
nanotechnology.
That's, look,
Mm.
riddle me
Yeah, well,
this,
that's it.
Batman. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah, that's right. Look, we could, yeah,
we're diverting now.
we are. We could dig
Let's
back.
come back to this. I want to come back to the
Yeah,
disclosure
yeah,
because I want to have a
definitely.
discussion
Yep.
about the classic argument is the reason they can't disclose it all is because it would collapse the sheeple, basically.
It would collapse everything,
Yes.
society, religion, um,
Mm.
the economy,
So
everything would just fall apart.
this is the dot point. So religious context, global spiritual downfall,
Mhm.
power collapse, energy industries, right? Because if you can
Yep.
make a anti gravity, if you can make a thunder generator that I can plug into my generator that I've got here and power your house for nothing,
Mm.
then what are we doing? You know what I mean? There's
Yep.
no point having the power line running to my house, right? So oil and gas control. I mean,
Hmm.
one of the funniest things that I've observed, especially in the last, 10, 15 years, is all these people get rid of oil and gas and petroleum products on a
Mm.
smartphone that's made of petroleum products in a
Yeah.
car that's made, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
ev- you know, I
Mm.
couldn't count the amount of things that surround me that have petroleum, petrochemical
Everything.
products, everything,
Everything. Yep.
everything,
And
right?
everything that's, even if it doesn't, it's created by that
Exactly.
whole
It's created
system,
by that system. Yes.
whether it's
Right.
coal power,
Yeah.
gas, oil.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, even the, the alternative energy, the fans and the lithium and all that
Mm.
sort of stuff,
Mm. It's still
you know,
dug out of the ground.
it's still dug out of the ground. Like it's 500 tons of concrete to mount
Mm.
one of those big fans.
Yep.
Like there's one of those, the landman. It's what's his name? See it on the reels. Billy, what's his name? Playing an oil and gas dude, and he says there's 500 tons of concrete and
Oh
it'll
yeah.
never pay itself back.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
It'll never.
Yeah.
But that little rant that he has is
Mm.
totally true.
Mm. Mm.
That's actually accurate and true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about cognitive dissonance and technology. Slave made this, dude.
Hmm. I
Or
know. Yeah.
Slave got the lithium and the cobalt out of it that
Hmm.
powers it. Slave did that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Someone in a loincloth digging with a pick
Yep.
is what happened
Mm.
for us to have this
Mm.
conversation. So
Yep.
the level of our cognitive dissonance knows no bounds,
That's
realistically.
right. Yeah.
Um, but as far as disclosure is concerned, basis of all technology changes overnight,
Yeah.
right? But then there's the power collapse. Not only so, then automatically, not automatically, I think it would be a little protracted, but in a
Mm.
short period of time, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, all the oil countries, which is where your trillionaires, a lot of your
Hmm.
trillionaires are, um, becomes worthless
Yeah.
overnight,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
It would collapse the technology base of our society.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but
And
then,
maybe this is where they're trying not to let this happen overnight. Maybe they're saying, well, let's just trickle feed it, because you got to remember as well, if the technology did change overnight, and like not literally overnight, but in a short space of time, we don't have the infrastructure to back it up. We don't
mm,
have the ability to. I mean, unless they've got some miraculous way of tapping into the existing infrastructure
yes,
and changing the source of the power. So if we're going to shut down a coal fire power station, we're going to replace it with this, you know, like that could potentially work as long as they are compatible. If it's not, if the anti-gravitic technology is going to wipe out air travel,
all the
then all the
antigravitic electromagnetic,
yep,
whatever you want to say, yeah.
all of these things. So all of your airline companies go broke, and then thousands and thousands or millions of employees are unemployed all of a sudden.
Mm,
So I think that there would have to be a transition period
mm.
in theory. I think that's probably what we're maybe at the beginning of. You
So
say,
you
oh,
reckon
look at,
that's because you talk about that? I mean, controlled
mm,
disclosure or
yeah,
semi-controlled
yeah, yeah,
disclosure.
yeah. So they're not controlling, um, they're not saying, oh, we're not going to share it with you, but we've got to be smart about this so that we don't fuck everything up.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
the end of it,
Yeah.
like, because it could end in a war,
Well, that's I've
you
got.
know.
So it goes power collapse, energy industry, oil and gas control, basis of all technology, anti gravity, Tesla tech, dollar signs, and then the next one is power struggle slash war.
Yep, yep.
Right,
And
because
that's
if it is only China and USA that has this technology,
mm,
then every other country is going to burn its conventional technology trying to take out and gain
yep,
that technology,
yep.
right? Which is you go back to Star Trek, go back
Mm-hmm.
to these spacefaring stories. It's like, are the monkeys at a point where we can handle
Mm,
this, right?
yeah.
And this is what we're talking about. And again, me and you and our bubble inside a bubble, like, yes, please, let's go, right? What do
Mm,
you need to do? Let me fly a
yep.
UFO. Let's go now.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, yep.
I'll tell me how to build a thunderstorm generator in my backyard and I will do it and I'll power my house with it. You know what I mean? Like, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yep. Yep.
But majority of people are still hooked in to
Mm,
the system. And
that's right.
like I said earlier, man, you've got to give
Mm,
it to them. They
yeah.
did a really, really good job. And
Yep.
it takes a hell of a lot of self
Mm,
reflection, observation, and inflection and honesty to see past it, right?
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
it.
There's a certain level of self development you've got to do to see
Mm,
through pierce the matrix, right?
mhm.
It's
Yeah, and that's sort of I sort of I'm thinking of a couple of short videos that I saw recently, and how technology has changed. And like we're talking from the 1800s, where the Industrial Revolution happened, and then we go into coal and oil and gas. And then we look
hydraulic
at
steam.
hydraulics, yeah, all of that, which, probably a little bit before the 1800s, like the trains and,
Mhm.
going from trains to planes to cars to,
Mhm.
where we are today and how that's happened over the last, sort of 200 years. Is it going to take that
But
long?
it went and
Oh, yeah, it went up. Yeah.
it went up to
Yep.
about 1960 and then went.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But maybe we're seeing the next rip. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yes.
that's what we're seeing. And but look, when you think about when computers first came out, like
Mhm.
you and I, we're what, Gen X, Y, I call it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hate saying the term millennials, but
No, no. We I do you know what I
we're
do know
Zennials.
the Zennials. That's what we
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we went from records
Yes. My
in
first
the
record was
yep,
Tone Lock Funky Cold Medina.
yep. Mine was some I can't remember. It was on a kids show. Anyway,
Was it? Yeah,
um,
mine was Funky Cold Medina by
was
Tone
it?
Lock.
Yeah, yeah. So we had records, we had tapes, we had
CDs.
CDs, MP3s.
Yeah. Remember there was the mini discs there for a while.
Yep,
They had like a
yep,
CD
yep,
inside a 3.5 inch floppy. We had the 3.5
yep.
inch. We had the floppy
That's it.
floppy,
Yep, we had the
three and a
floppies and
half
the
inch
yep,
floppies.
yep.
Um, you remember the hard drives that used to have to plug into its own power source? Remember that? Like you
Yep.
had to plug the hard drive
Hmm.
into the wall, then you
Yep.
could plug it into the computer.
Hmm.
And, well, I
Yep.
remember my mother worked for the government, right? So she was one of the first ones to get computers in Victoria.
Yep.
And I remember I was the man and
Mm.
my computer had 32 megabytes
Yep.
of RAM.
Mine had
32
16.
megabytes. Yeah, that's what I mean, right? So 16 was the norm.
Yep.
Mine had 32. Well,
Mm.
the government gave my mother
Yeah.
a 32 megabyte computer.
Yeah.
And I remember being the man on that,
Mm.
right? I
Mm.
remember having to hide Doom because she didn't like me playing Doom.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had Doom as well, but we had a one of those older computers that had the black and orange screen.
Yes,
That was the
yes,
first one, and we had
yes,
the dot
yes.
matrix printer.
Yep. Dot make bzzz,
Yep,
bzzz,
yep,
bzzz, yeah.
yep,
So yeah,
yep.
we've
We've seen that development and that
seen that develop.
evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if, because that's what we're talking 35, 40 years, probably
Hmm.
longer.
Yeah, 40 odd years. Yeah.
So now we're in the next stage where, like, all right, well, it's going to take this long. It's going to take another 40 years
Mm.
for this to change, because we've gone from, ramped up all the technology, all the fiber optics, the digital stuff, gone from analog to digital. And now we're into the next, what I would say is quantum.
Yes.
That's what I think is coming.
Look, actually, I'm just going to put I'm just going to put quantum discoveries here just for my own. This is new year, new me, mate. Right?
Yep.
We're making notes
Making dots.
because yeah, we need to talk about that because
Yep.
if the quantum stuff that I haven't again, there's only so much time in the day, right? I've had a little bit of look into that. If what the quantum computer did, I think it's Google's quantum computer. If it did what
Mhm.
they say it did, then nothing matters, right?
No.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't understand. It's hard for me. Like, yeah, it did so many calculations that it went back in time, or it had
Mm.
to have accessed alternative dimensions in order to make the calculations that it made.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, a thought that I had thinking about because I was thinking about when was the tick? The tick was the smartphone, the iPhone, right? Obviously, was the
Mm.
that's 06, 07.
Yeah.
But then you think about Steve, what's his name, Jobs.
Jobs.
All his creations came through psychedelic trips,
Mhm.
right? So he had like the computer, the personal computer, all that sort of stuff. He admitted that it was LSD or mushrooms. I can't remember which
Yeah.
one.
Probably LSD.
You know, but then you get into a weird space where everything that connects everything is mycelium,
Mhm.
right? And the latest Star Trek, the Discovery series, they don't use warp drive; they travel the mycelium.
Okay.
They travel through the mushrooms. That's what they do because the microscopic fungi that's everywhere, right? It's all over our skin. You know what I mean? It's what makes trees grow and all that sort of stuff. They've figured out. You want to trip yourself out. Paul Stamets. You listen to the Paul Stamets shows on JRE. He talks a lot about mushrooms and what they actually do and potentially are.
Okay.
Because what is the muse, right?
Mm.
What is the muse? What are we? You know, I'm sitting in a purple studio because the mushrooms told me to do it. Right? I'm not joking.
Oh, yeah, I know. You've told me the story.
I want to have I will have a
Yeah.
discussion. I will have an open discussion about that
Yeah. Yeah.
this year sometime. But
Mm. Mm.
that's it is what it is, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, however, we sort of see what we do. We're riffing.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
do we how do we get to mushrooms? I told you we wouldn't remember what we were talking about.
Quantum.
Quantum.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if the what if the quantum computer is traveling the mycelium through the universe and accessing the infinite knowledge that the mushrooms have because they
Yeah.
are everything that connects everything else?
Yeah. Well, one of the big questions I have always had is well, not so much a question, but a theory, is that there is something here that connects everything and everyone.
It's
And
the
it
ether,
is it well, it's the ether, it's consciousness, and
spirit.
it's spirit. It could be mycelium as well.
Could be.
There's
That's what I'm
something
saying. That's
there.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying. There
there
could
is
be. Yeah.
something here that connects all of us.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, you talk about
yeah.
the the perfect example of that that is a good random thing is the
Mm,
anti gravity technology
mhm.
in 2022, 2023. I started randomly, not telling anyone, right? Just picked up my UFO book and started reading it again, and then started down the anti gravity, Tesla tech, Otis car, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
And not saying a word to any of the boys, no chats, no Facebook, no social media, no nothing, right? I was just a personal little project. I've always been obsessed with it since I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I just picked it back up again. Then five blokes that I know, three in Australia and two overseas, then in a couple of month period, we've discovered that we've all been researching the same thing
Mm.
for months
Yep.
without having a single word spoken apart from we're mates.
Mm.
So is that morphic resonance, man? Like, what are you talking
Mm.
about there? Is that
Well, I sort of broached that topic yesterday in our chat in saying that we are looking at exactly the same thing. Look, that could be a lot to do with the algorithms that we have
yes?
on our Facebooks and
Well,
social media pages. Yeah,
we follow right the same
yeah,
pages, we share to
yeah,
the same groups, blah blah blah.
yeah. But what I found intriguing was there was a couple of videos that you popped up in the chat, and I went, "Oh, I just looked at that." Are we? Is there a wavelength where we're connected
Potentially,
somewhere? Yeah,
I think so.
that's yeah, yeah,
I think so.
mm,
I there's something to that, right? And
yeah,
again, everything is connected. One
mm-hmm,
of the other things that I had in my crazy conspiracy theory list was psychological, ESP, channeling,
yep,
telepathy, all that sort of stuff. You can't leave that out of the conversation with this stuff,
no,
right?
that's
It's
right.
like collective consciousness, morphic resonance, right?
Yep, yep,
Like, and they've done studies on that with
mm,
dogs and
mm-hmm,
cats, right? The cat starts meowing 5 minutes before the owner gets home. The dog starts getting
yep,
up and about because it knows, and it doesn't
mm,
matter what time of day it is, right? They've
yep,
done tests where it could be the middle of the day, the end of the day. It's not like it's a leave for work, come
mm,
home from work.
yep,
That's what happens,
mm,
right?
mm.
Um,
And you've also, in that area, you've got the psychic warfare stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember.
What is it? We who stare at goats. The transmedium, not
Yeah,
transmedium. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
You
So
know what I'm
that's
talking
the
about. We can't
Stargate program,
Stargate
and
program,
yeah. God, my brain's just gone. It's
remote
fried now.
viewing, remote
Remote.
viewing.
That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a new name for that now, which I was listening to the Joe Rogan. Is it Kip Atworth or something? Hang on, I've got it written down here somewhere. Um, Actually, no, it's on my phone. Um,
So just to
Let me
just a
just.
tip for notes. You've got to have
Mm.
method to your madness, brother.
Yeah. It's here. It's Skip Atwater. Yep, that's the
Skip
guy.
Atwater.
So
Okay.
him, and there was another guy on there as well. But again, that's to do with that remote viewing and that psychic stuff as well. So yeah,
But
there's
again, is it
some.
is it a controlled propaganda for us to say that that's all bullshit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The
Yeah.
problem is with that sort of stuff is that um, as someone who has a crystal generator and an ankh and a salt lamp, and I've delved in those groups for a long time.
Mm.
A lot of those people are full of shit. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Oh yeah, and I've seen a lot of it over the years as well. And
Mm. You
you
want to
get
see
the.
if the amount of fraud and just
Yeah.
ripping people blind
Mm.
off in
Yeah.
the new age movement is unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. It is,
That
and I
probably deserves an episode in itself.
100%, 100%. Yeah, like
Because it is,
I've
it's
been
unbelievable.
in that world on and off for the last 20 odd years,
Mm.
and I've met genuine people, and I've
Yes.
met complete like just bullshit artists. Like it's
Oh, look,
unbelievable.
most of it's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it really is. I reckon, yeah, I reckon I've maybe met half a dozen people over the years that were really genuine in their abilities
Mm.
and they had something. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, we've all got a gift, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was not my plan to become a trainer or a teacher, but
Mm.
it's through training and teaching that I realized that my voice isn't half bad. I mean, I did radio earlier, but that's
Mm.
why we're sitting here now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I realized that I have a way of communicating that people resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
People said that that is what they thought. So here we are,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't realize that, you know, we all have a gift.
Mm.
Everyone has a talent and there's nothing new in the zoo, right?
Mm.
Everything and everybody has different talents, and I think
Yeah.
we can't have this conversation without them because again, what do we come back to? Is that leftovers of genetic memory, right? Do you want to bring in crazy conspiracy theories? Is magic real? Well,
Mm-hmm.
quantum mechanics and quantum computing tells us that it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's proving that it is scientifically. We just don't know how to harness it.
Yeah.
So it's like then we go back to the stories of magic and harnessing the elements and all these sorts of things, right?
The
And
wizards and
yeah, exactly.
Merlin and
Merlin and all that
yeah,
stuff. Are they
all those.
using ancient technology and all these sorts of things? Why not? Right?
Mm.
One of Angus's Yoda moments was every now and again he has these Yoda moments. And one of them was, what if everything is true? It's just a matter of time, right? Like, what if every possibility we're talking about is true? But then you fast forward to quantum mechanics and interdimensional, extra dimensions, all that sort of stuff. Theoretically, there's a dimension where we're doing this and we're both made of smarties, mate. You know what I mean? Like
That's right. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and what do you do with that information, right?
Mm.
But again, what makes us, okay, so here's a deeper question, right?
Mm.
We're trying to bring it back to disclosure because
Yep. Yep.
we keep bringing these topics up and we're exploring them openly without prejudice or whatever, right? We're just having a conversation, okay, about whatever relative experience we have, but we're open to the ideas. What makes us able to have these conversations when we both know people that would say this entire episode, they just write it off as bullshit?
Mm. I look. There's any number of things, but if I have to say one thing, it's that we have an open mind, and I
Mm.
think just saying that, um, it's hard to explain what that means
Yes,
without
it's
going
very
into
hard to
a
explain.
deep conversation about it. I've always had an open mind.
Yeah, me
I
too.
was raised that way. I was raised to be fair. I was raised to be just. I was raised to look at things from both sides of the coin, to listen to both sides of the story, all that kind of stuff. And I think having that taught to me from a young age, and also having a grandmother who was, in my mind, she was not human. She was a fairy, for 100% sure that she was.
That's so funny. That's so
Yeah,
funny. I am who I am today because of my dad, for sure.
yeah, for sure. And I had a very, sorry,
You're right, mate.
very deep connection with her,
Mhm.
and everything
Everything that's good about you, it comes from
Everything
her.
that I believe is because of her.
Mm. Do you know why I will never forgive or forget, John?
Mm.
My nan passed during COVID and I wasn't allowed to
Yeah,
go and say goodbye.
yeah, yeah. I know.
And I will never forgive or forget.
Mm. Yeah,
Never. So I understand, man.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's like the guardian angels drop down to just say, "Hey, make sure you you be fair, and
Mm.
you be humble, and you know what I mean." And
Yeah.
it's all those things,
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think, but what makes a woman or two women of that generation
Mm.
have that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's, like we said before, 40% of people don't have an internal voice in their heads, right?
Yeah, that's
Well, I
right.
have no idea what is
Yeah.
existence like. If you
Well,
don't, I don't know. Um,
so that again, that raises another question, because this has been, we talk about the psychic things. Now, I know psychic people
yes,
who have gone to do readings for people,
and there's nothing.
and there's nothing.
Yes, they're empty
It's just a
vessels.
black
Yes,
hole.
yep,
So
empty vessels is what they're
yeah,
commonly
yeah.
referred to. Yeah.
So I put it down to, there's a spiritual aspect to all of this. Not to get into the woo woo stuff, but
What do you mean? We're in
well,
the
we
woo
are
woo.
okay. Sorry, okay. No, I'm not going to get in the deep woo woo stuff, but we have a connection with something that's greater than us,
Yes.
and that gives us our, I guess,
Well,
it
look,
creates us, it makes us who we are.
I have to do this, John.
Yeah.
Right? There was a reason that I did it that involved trauma.
Mhm.
Okay, that reason is no longer valid. After working through that stuff, I came to the conclusion that this had to be built,
Mhm.
and I have to do this. It's not a choice,
Yeah.
right? It's like even the times where I've stopped, or last year I didn't release a lot of episodes.
Mhm.
Still talking to you, still talking to Benny, still shooting articles everywhere, and still doing research. And there's still a notepad
Mhm.
that's full of notes from last year that I never used on a show. Right?
Yeah.
I have to do this. It's not a question.
Mm.
It's like this is what we're doing. And I think UTC3 is me giving into that. It's like, okay, cool. This all right. I give
Yeah.
up. I give up. Fine. This
Yeah.
is what we're doing. Let's just go.
Mm. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I mean, you're getting into a different realm about
Mm.
reincarnation, and I think you're getting into um, source energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I imagine you've been called an old soul. I've been
Mhm.
called an old soul, right?
Yeah.
This is, you know, part of my. I went through a big, deep process during COVID, right, where
Mm.
I'd let go of a lot of anger pre-COVID, and I just wanted peace and love, and just to do the show and be happy and be cool. And then I had to contemplate a lot of darkness because of what was going on, and I got to a period in those few years where it's like just looking internally into myself. It's like, what's wrong with me? It's like my soul was tired
Mm.
because my soul was like, do we really have to do this again? You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
done this before. We've been
Yeah.
here before. We've witnessed something like this before.
Mhm.
The human race keeps bloody doing this.
Mm.
When is it enough? Right? And it's like I don't know how to explain that to you apart from that. Right? It's like,
Well, the thing is that I can relate because my soul is tight, and
yeah,
that's all I can say. Because as I actually said it the other day, I said I feel like my soul is exhausted and
yeah. That's because
it
it
needs a
is.
break. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
because it is, man.
So, but
That's a
yeah,
lot. That's a
yeah,
lot, man.
yeah. And
Well,
I
yeah,
think to bring it back
to bring it back from wherever we are,
from where
wherever we
from that,
were
yeah,
in the ether. Yeah.
that is where I think, or the with regards to disclosure,
Mhm.
that's where I think Stephen Greer is coming from. That's my feeling, is that he is on that same
He's
journey.
tired. He's
He's
tired.
tired. He's had a lot. He's done a lot, but he's
Mm.
still going.
Mm.
And he's pushing hard. But I think what we're seeing is that the other side of that is your Lou Elizondos, you know, it's not like they're fighting the same. It's the same stuff. They're talking about the same thing.
Yes.
But as I alluded to in the live stream the other day, we're talking about, Stephen Greer is coming up from the spiritual side, and from the side that there is no threat. these beings, or if we want to talk about NHI or extraterrestrials or whatever it is.
Well, look, if we take all the stuff we've talked about tonight,
Yeah,
there's a version of these beings that have been here forever, and they're
that's
obviously
right.
watching over us to some degree.
Yeah,
They have
yeah,
to be. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like that has to be one of the functions, or they allow us to coexist peacefully ish.
yeah,
You know?
that's
Like
right. Yeah,
that's part of the truth of this.
yeah,
If we are to believe that the sightings that have gone back for time memorial, no one really
yeah,
knows how far they
that's
go back.
right. Yeah, and so what I think is that he's trying to look at the bigger picture,
Mm,
whereas the other guys are just focused on the national security.
mm.
And the
Well,
one thing that
yeah,
the one thing that really sort of
same mountain, different tracks. I
yeah,
think.
that's right. Yeah. So the one thing that bugs me about that is that it's very much America, America, America. Like this
But
is happening.
that is the controlled narrative of the West,
That
though.
is, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and
yeah.
the
Comes back to
shitty,
media blackout. Yeah.
yeah, the shitty thing that I see here in Australia is that we're getting dragged into it as well.
Yes. Well,
Um,
we go with a laptop.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So but I do think that there is a change coming, and I'm really hoping that it's for the best.
Yeah. I hope it's the good guys, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I really, I
yeah.
hope it's not. I hope it's not the shadow government going. You know
No,
what? We're going to take over now, and
yeah, yeah.
here's all the Terminator robots, and be nice.
Yeah, well, so do you want to? I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of movies that I wrote down.
Yeah, rattle off. This
So
this is research. Rabbit hole research.
so this is the research. Okay, so I said Aquaman before. That was talking about the underwater civilizations that they've now said are there. Well, not so civilizations, but they reckon that there are aliens under the water. So that was Aquaman, and obviously there's technology in there as well, because you look at Black Manta and he's got this amazing technology that he gets from the Atlanteans, and
Yep.
can do all kinds of cool stuff. So pretty much all the Marvel movies. So Iron Man, you're looking at AI and technology. You're talking about nanotechnology as
Yeah,
well.
thrust vectoring, all that
All
sort of
that kind of
stuff. Different,
yeah,
propulsion technology. Yeah.
yeah. So Spider-Man, again, sort of alludes to that, but also the holographics. So that's where it bleeds into Project Bluebeam.
That Far From Home one where it's all just holographic drones that are
Yeah.
creating the footage. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, when you think about it, is unbelievable. But yeah, it's Captain America as well. And Shield, so Agents of Shield, alluding to
Hail
those.
Hydra.
Yep, massive ships and stuff. Well, yeah, the Hydra stuff.
Look, one of the episodes that disturbed me early on in my podcast career that actually stopped me recording for a little while was who actually won World War II.
So I was just about to say that as well.
That disturbed
that.
me. You know what I mean? When you actually,
yeah, did America actually win, or did they just kill Hitler? And then they said, well, you guys have got some amazing technology and some amazing ideas, and that's that Operation Paperclip, where they bring all those guys over from the. Did they say, well, let's just say that America won, but in actual fact, we've got all the
stuff that we're working with. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you talk about German technology from World War II. Their lathe is still under lock and key.
Ooh.
There's a German lathe. There's this fabled German lathe that no one is allowed to look at, see. That is part of the basis of all the advancements in technology of the 40s, 50s, and 60s that America did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, and at the base level, Britain joined the war to free Poland.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis. Russia ended up with Poland. They didn't free them at all.
No.
Right. So the very basis of everything is none of it is true. Yeah. And it's quite disturbing to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's all of those, and then obviously we've got Transformers, which touches on little subjects here and there in the.
I love good Transformers. Yeah.
Same. I thought they were great movies. I really enjoyed them.
They've lost their way a little bit, if I'm honest. Right? After Michael Bay stopped it, he took the. I just wish Shia LaBeouf could have kept his mouth shut, because he was the Transformers dude. He could have He could have carried that franchise quite well, I think, but he just couldn't keep his mouth shut.
I did see something there. It's probably completely fake, but I did see something they were talking about bringing him back.
But right.
Who knows? I mean, but they also said that they might bring Megan Fox back as well, which didn't make any sense, because she was sort of
Yeah, she got rode out
Yeah,
pretty
she
easily.
did.
Yeah.
Well, she got rode out in the third one. So
Mm.
anyway, so yeah, there's Transformers, and then to take a
But if
slight detour.
The Transformers are real and they're listening, I'm with the Autobots and I want a transforming car,
Yep,
please.
same. Preferably a Mustang.
Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Or
matter.
actually, well, no, actually,
They've
I
got the
tell you what,
technology. They just scan whatever
they just
car
do
that they
whatever they
want.
want. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd
So,
take Ironhide any day with
yeah.
his giant truck.
Hot Rod. Hot
Um,
Rod used to be mine.
yeah,
But
okay,
that's the cartoon. That's the
yeah,
cartoon.
yeah. Well,
Hot Rod never made it to the movies.
no, which is a shame.
Mm.
No. And then just to take a slight detour to the left, or not so to the left, but anyway, whatever. Your Terminator. Okay, so the AI. I think there's a bit of a time, and we shared a video on this the other day where I can't remember the lady's name, but she was saying that John Connor was so that the Terminator and the Matrix are connected.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
the Terminator is the prequel
Yep.
to the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did write this down the other day on my phone. I'm going to bring it up because I had all the
Well,
link to it.
I think the reel we're talking about is the video is it's Sarah Connor and John Connor in the car,
Yep.
and she's like, robots can't do that, and they say it's not for about 40 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
1984, 2024.
Yeah.
And
So what?
Skynet is also a computer chip company. That's a little
Mm.
disturbing, but it is. Look it up.
Yeah, I know.
You
I've
can't
seen
make
it.
this shit
No,
up.
exactly. It's real. So what I had was because obviously the subject of Keanu Reeves being an alien
Mm.
and in all of
The
these
Matrix was a documentary, yeah.
yeah, well, the Matrix. So Terminator was obviously the war against AI.
Mhm.
And then the Matrix is obviously the simulation. So the war against AI was prior to the simulation.
Yep.
John Wick is also I put this down as potentially either an alternative reality or Neo's life before the simulation or before the awakening. So
Okay.
see, so that was because I mean, as apart from the fact that in the Matrix, Neo is just sitting in front of a computer. We don't actually know, apart from the fact that he's a genius with a computer, we don't actually know what he does for a living.
No.
So
Well, no, he works in insurance, I think. He works at an
yeah,
insurance
but could that
company.
just be a cover?
Mm.
Because anyway. Um,
Oh, okay. So you're saying
or
that he's an
maybe,
the
yeah,
early
or
Matrix Neo is John Wick. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, so maybe,
Okay.
or the
Can't leave out Bill
Matrix.
and Ted's Excellent Adventure as
No,
well.
that's
Yeah.
true. Well, that was yeah.
The
Anyway,
latest one is so bad, it's terrible.
yeah, it was.
Unfortunately, my 15-year-old sense of humor didn't turn up for that movie because it's
No,
really bad. It's
yeah,
really bad.
it was a shitty storyline. It
Mm.
really was. It could have been a lot better than it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we talk about okay. So Neo's life before the Matrix. So he was John Wick, and then he became Mr. Anderson, um, and he went into insurance. So this is after he gets out of the John Wick life.
Mm.
Okay. Timeline's a little bit off, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, and then we look at John Constantine.
Yes, I was going to say,
Of,
and
of
Constantine 2 is
Constantine.
coming out this year, and
Yes,
I'm
yes.
very, very curious to watch
Yeah,
that.
same.
That is an
So,
unbelievable movie, Constantine. If you haven't seen it in a while, to go back and watch that one. It's an
yeah,
unbelievable movie.
I
Talk
watched it
about spirits
religiously.
and demons and angels and what. And but the thing is, man, everything is connected, dude. If we're going to
Mhm,
come back to what we're talking
mhm,
about, what
mhm.
is an angel? What is a demon?
Yeah,
What are we talking about with that stuff? The lines cross, right? Fairy
yeah,
tales, myth. Like,
mhm,
what are we talking about? Nephilim,
yeah, yeah.
Elohim.
So my thought with that is that Constantine is set after the Matrix when he dies, even though they brought him back in the last Matrix movie. Is Constantine set in purgatory in the afterlife?
Mhm.
And Constantine is essentially a guardian of the souls of humanity, because you remember in the last scene, so he can see angels and demons
Mhm.
like it's you and me talking right now, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of, I guess, in the middle. He's fighting for the good guys,
Mm.
but he's also condemned to hell. But he's not there yet. So
He's a great Jedi.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he's in purgatory. That's where I think that whole thing sits.
You want to see a
Um,
good movie about purgatory? It's a few years old now. Gabriel, I think it's
yep,
what it's
yep,
called.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's an Australian-made
it's an
movie.
Australian-made movie set in South Australia.
Yeah.
Look, I've been to South Australia. Purgatory is not far from there. I don't think. Outback
I
South Australia, it's not far from there. I'm pretty sure it's the middle of
yeah,
bloody nowhere.
yeah.
Um, but again, this stuff all comes together, man. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like,
Yep.
how do you, I remember, I think, for those not of our generation, they don't understand what the Matrix did to us,
Mm.
right? See, I saw the Matrix in Gove in Nhulunbuy, right? And it
Yep.
actually had an intermission, right? They had to change the reel, right? We didn't have a camera that had a full reel. So
Mhm.
they'd have a 20-minute intermission in between. And I remember the Matrix. I was never the same after that. Like there is before that night when I watched the Matrix, and there is after. There is
Mm.
no that blew my mind. Right, the original Matrix movie.
Yeah.
It's and one of the things Keanu Reeves has said time and time and time again is the Matrix was a documentary.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Mm. And it leads into this whole other discussion of simulations and stuff. But
Well, the
um,
math suggests that we are living in a
yeah,
simulation.
that's right.
Yeah.
It would be
There's
yeah,
more chance than not that we are. That's what the math actually suggests,
yeah,
and that's disturbing in itself. If you really wrap your mind around that, because that
yeah,
is, yeah,
mm,
theoretically,
yeah,
that's it is what it is,
yeah,
right? What if we are? That'd make the morphic resonance make sense. We're connecting our pods. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like we
yep.
found our pods in the
Plug that
in the
out.
giant stack, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
I don't know, dude.
Look, this whole
We have gone some places
we
tonight.
have, yeah, yeah,
We have
yep,
gone some places tonight.
yep. Um,
I mean, and the thing is, I wanted to come back to, you said open mind, right? That that understanding, I can sort of remember, like it only happened, like I've always had an open mind, right? But the realization that I had that nobody knows anything really, right? That we're all at different levels of pretending, like everybody. Like I said, man, you called me a professional podcaster. I'm not, dude. I am faking it until I make it. That's what I'm doing. I'm just doing my best. You know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
that's that's the reality for me.
Yeah.
However, it's. I remember standing at. It was coming off Central Station in Brisbane, and for just whatever reason, the mycelium downloaded me. It's like I looked around at all these people, right? And again, most of all on their phones, paying attention, just going to their jobs in their little cubicles in the city, and just the little bees talk about the Matrix, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I went, no one knows. No one really knows. If you're
Hmm.
honest, you don't know, right?
No.
The only thing that I'm sure about is that I don't know, right? And that's how I look at everything.
Yeah.
I've got my understandings, my perspectives, my interpretations, beliefs in some things, I suppose, as well.
Mm.
However, I don't know. And I think when you have that realization, or a human mind starts to grasp that realization, there's two ways. That's right. You
Mm.
either go back to sleep because that's way too much for you, or you are released. It's like, well, if no one knows, then it doesn't really matter,
That's
right?
right.
It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. Just color vaguely within the lines,
Mm.
all right? Because it doesn't matter. You know, be who you want, say what you want, do what you want,
Mm.
right? Ultimately, it makes no difference in the grand
Mm.
scheme of things.
Yep.
I just wonder what kind of event, coming back to disclosure,
Hmm.
Project Bluebeam, etc. What kind of global event could wake up the masses, right? And is this the drip feed is what's going on?
Hmm.
But again, if you believe the disclosure teams, you know what I mean? One team's here,
Mm.
one team's there, right? There's a group of these shadow government people that want everything to be released,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
right.
that's what they're fighting for. Okay.
Yep. Mm.
And that apparently is what this drone is, right? The drones and stuff like that. That's another side to this, right?
Yep.
That is what we're talking about here.
Mm.
That's the shadow government releasing their technology so we see it.
Mm.
But again, is that, controlled disclosure, misinformation, and distraction? Like
You don't know.
we don't know, man.
No,
We
and
don't
that's
know.
that's the frustrating thing is that if all the stars aligned and everybody said, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it. Let's just
Mhm,
tell them,
mhm,
and everything came out.
mhm.
Sure, we might have chaos for a little while, but I think ultimately they bring it back together.
I
Because
think it'll be
if
better.
yeah,
But
if they've been able to control it for this long,
mhm,
I don't think they have any trouble controlling it a little bit longer and just
mhm.
changing the topic and changing the subject and changing the narrative. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, look, yes
yeah,
and no. I understand what you're saying, but it's like I suppose because we're the bubble within the bubble within the bubble,
mhm,
we don't actually know how many people are truly open to this. Because
that's
everyone
right.
we know is, everyone
Hmm.
within our groups and our groups is like, yes, let's go.
Yeah,
I think COVID backfired in a certain way, right? Because even the, um, the muggle born amongst us, right?
hmm,
You can't deny that a lot of stuff is bullshit, right?
yeah,
Like there's
yeah,
there's just no way, right? And if you do, then good luck to you because there's no way that you can really deny it. So I think maybe we could take it. I
mm,
think maybe we could take it. The question then is, do we reveal the technology and the aliens at the same time? You know what I mean? Or do we advance humanity's technology first and then go, oh, hey, by the way, um, yeah, we've got a space force. That's not a joke. We've actually got fleets of ships. There's, as you say, there's a breakaway civilization on Mars, the moon. It's been happening. It's been going on, and these are our friends, the Palladians.
yeah,
They're actually our creators. If you want, they
yeah,
actually came here 800,000 years ago and created
yeah,
Homo. And
mm,
then you've got, yeah, then there's these other guys, the Anunnaki. They sort of did some stuff as well. That's why there's different
mm.
people around. I don't. It would be
I'm,
chaos for a while, but I reckon we can take it.
yeah,
That's
I think we can too, and I think I sort of wonder whether the other way would be the way to do it. Whether the aliens coming first and saying, "Hey, we're
but
here."
but
You know what I
wouldn't
mean?
the yeah? But then again, using our previous
Mm, mm,
experience as an example, would that be the space daddy? You know what I mean?
mm,
Would that whoever the first race of aliens that's more technologically advanced than us, because we can't because most of us have to choose a team. We'd choose Team Space Daddy, wouldn't we? You know what I mean? Like I think
yeah.
that, and this is where we come to the spirituality side of this, the consciousness level side of this.
Mm,
What is the true level of consciousness vibration of the planet, and how is it at a critical mass where we could take this without going bananas? Like there's
yeah.
obviously, definitely sects of human society that it would just implode, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing,
Yeah.
there's nothing for it. There would be chaos, absolute
Mm,
chaos.
mm,
Um, the belief of some spiritual beliefs and them being suddenly not true would
mm.
break a lot of people.
Yeah.
But again, are we going to move forward or are we going to go to World War Three?
Well, that's it. I think ultimately we need to move forward, and unfortunately, I think moving forward, and as
You
they
can't make
say,
an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
exactly right. Yeah. Change requires sacrifice.
Mhm.
And not that we're going to sacrifice anyone, but I think there are going to be people who are negatively affected and people that are positively affected. It's just the
Mm.
way it goes. Like we
That's
can't,
how it is. Well,
yeah.
in the grand universal scheme of things, man, there is no good, bad, right?
Mm. It just
There's
is what
just
it
it
is.
is what it is.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's the again very difficult thing to wrap your mind
Mm.
around. When you think about some of the terrible atrocities that happen. However, it is what it is. It's always
Yeah.
existed. It will always exist. There is balance in the
Mm.
dark and the
Mm.
light. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Like that's.
Yeah.
Well, mate, where did you want to? I think we're plus 2 hours again, so
Yeah.
we might wrap it up.
Yeah.
I was thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, just talk to the people for
Sure.
15 seconds.
That's right. So, not to get into another subject, but I think somewhere to leave it off and to will lead into another episode. Is we're talking about the cover-ups and who is behind the cover-ups, and there's so much, and I guess there's so many different areas of where these cover-ups could be coming from, government or what do you call it? The companies and corporations behind certain things, the shadow government, that kind of stuff.
That's the money, man. The money and the control. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I was saying, Triff, was that the cover-ups and stuff like that, and where this leads to, and this leading into another episode, brings us to the Illuminati, I guess, and it's a different subject, but it's also intertwined with this.
Well, look, I think secret civilized
secret societies.
There is definitely something there.
Yeah.
Because there's the secrets of the stone making, there's the secrets of the masons, there's the secrets of the technology, there's the secrets of why 3-story buildings are underground. Like there's what I get the feeling with this new world that we are coming out is that the time for secrets is over. It's done.
Yep.
Right? It's let us know and let the chips fall where they may. Right? Because if we continue along the track that we are continuing along, we're going to kill each other.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to make us do, or try to make us do.
Yeah.
And as we say, we've got to take the last few years as a snapshot and a data collection, like they did, in that there will be a certain level of people that walk lockstep to that drum. And, one of the things I've heard about this whole, and you talk about Raytheon and Lockheed and all these places and money and power and technology and da-da-da-da-da. Forget about all that. This is a human thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are all brothers and sisters on the same big blue ball hurtling through infinity. If we are truly not alone, if we have access and understandings of technology that can save the planet instead of continuing to destroy it, if we have the ability to travel the stars and we have a deeper understanding of not only ourselves here on this earth, but our galaxy and our solar system and everything else like that, and this information has been hidden from us, and again, we just go, what if the 1% is true rule?
Mm-hmm.
We deserve to know. That's a human problem.
Yep.
Right. And that's all there is to it. It's not a left. It's not a right. It's not a technology. It's not this. It's not that. It's not religion. It's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The system is broken and the system isn't broken. It's operating exactly as it should.
Yeah.
However, we are over the system.
Mm.
Right. UTC in its own small way is fighting back against that system and talking about the things that don't want to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let us have it. You know what I mean?
We deserve to know. It's been too long.
Well, mate, unless you've got anything major to finish, I've got a little thing, right? So back in the day, I haven't got Bodie Sanders' books out yet. There's still a few boxes, but this one popped out. It's called A Guide for the Advanced Soul, right? And it's just a bunch of sayings.
I've got that book. Yep, I've got it. I've also got another one, which is I can't remember the name. I think it's the Book of Answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, because this is something fun that we used to do that I want to bring back because it's pretty crazy, right? Yep. So where our intention was around disclosure and knowledge and all this sort of stuff, right? So I'm going to, you can see me across the thing. I'll close my eyes. Okay. I'm going to flick. Let's see.
I was waiting for that.
Okay. So the one on the left-hand page is, until you can understand that nothing can happen to you, nothing can ever come to you or be kept from you, except in accord with your state of consciousness, you do not have the key to life. Isn't that what we were just talking about?
Yep.
Okay. And the first one think about what we've been talking about. There is no separation between us and God. We are divine expressions of the creative principle. There can be no real lack of scarcity. There is nothing we have to try to achieve or attract. We contain the potential for everything within us. And with that, mate, and with that, this episode is done. Another Everything is Connected. Thank you very much, brother. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. I've got no idea what we talked about. What did I tell you at the start? I don't.
Yeah, we
I'm
never
really
remember.
sure. I
You
don't
just
remember.
blah 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 blah,
Yeah,
and
blah, blah,
we're
blah, blah,
done.
blah, and then we're done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
enjoy that one. We're going to enjoy listening back to it because we
Mm.
had a list. I don't know whether did we. I've got notes and stuff, but
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Onwards and upwards, man. Until next time.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening.
Awesome, guys. Cheers.